Tonight we're diving deep into the complete history of special and physical attacks in Pokémon. But before we begin our journey into Pokémon, I want to take a moment to welcome you, whether this is your first night here or you've made stellar sleep part of your nightly routine. For those of you who've been joining us consistently, I want to thank you for being such an integral part of our channel. Be sure to share this video with someone you know who loves Pokémon. If you're falling asleep with us tonight, let me know in the comments how many nights in a row you've been here. And if this is your first night, just comment day 1. Now let's get back to the video. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine the world of Pokémon not as a series of games on a screen, but as a living, breathing ecosystem of elemental energy and raw physical power. Think back to the very beginning, to the year 1996, when the first trainers stepped out into the tall grass of the Kanto region. In those early days, the rules of engagement were written in stone, yet they were fundamentally different from everything we know today. There was a time when the very essence of a Pokémon determined how it fought. Regardless of its individual strengths or the logic of its movements, if a Pokémon breathed fire, that fire was always a manifestation of its internal mystical energy. If it struck with a ghostly shadow, that shadow was inexplicably tied to its physical brawn. This is the story of a hidden evolution, a mechanical transformation that mirrors the growth of the franchise itself. It is the history of the divide between the physical and the special, a journey through the changing laws of physics in a world governed by pocket monsters. Why does this distinction matter so deeply? To the casual observer, it might seem like mere numbers on a status screen, a bit of math hidden behind a colourful animation. But for those who have spent decades in the tall grass, this is the foundation of everything. It is the reason why a Gengar, a creature composed of toxic gas and ethereal shadow, struggled to find its footing for 10 long years until the world literally changed around it. It is the reason why a Gyarados, a leviathan of unimaginable physical strength, spent generations unable to properly harness the power of the very tides it commanded. When we talk about the history of physical and special attacks, we are talking about the soul of competitive strategy and the very law that defines what these creatures are. We are exploring how the developers at Game Freak slowly unraveled the limitations of their own creation to allow Pokémon to finally become the versions of themselves they were always meant to be. The mystery lies in the transition. How did we go from a world where every single water-type move was inherently special, to a world where a Pokémon could choose to strike with a crashing wave or a pressurized jet of bubbles? What were the unintended consequences of the Great Split in Generation 4? A moment that redefined the viability of hundreds of species overnight. And how do we reconcile the strange anomalies that exist today, moves that blur the lines between mind and body, using special energy to target physical endurance? There is a deep, rhythmic history here, buried in the code and the memories of millions of battles. It is a tale of legendary events, from the arrival of a shiny Entei that changed the rules of fire, to the psychic mastery of Mewtwo as it evolved from a laboratory experiment into a god of war that could bypass traditional defenses. Tonight, we are going to peel back the layers of time. We will travel from the pixelated shores of Cinnabar Island to the sprawling, open landscapes of the modern era. We will examine the mathematical shifts of the special stat split in 1999 and the revolutionary dawn of the Sinnoh region in 2006. We will look at the rule breakers, the signature moves of gods, and the small subtle changes that turned forgotten monsters into icons of the metagame. This is not just a list of mechanics, it is a long-form exploration of the very fabric of the Pokémon universe, designed to carry you through the night. So, settle in, find your comfort, and prepare to dive deep into the complete, exhaustive history of how Pokémon learn to hit and how they learn to hurt. The journey begins now, at the very first spark of elemental power. In 1996, when the world of Pokémon first flickered to life on grainy Game Boy screens, Every battle hinged on one unbreakable pillar, the special stat. This wasn't just another number in a Pokemon's arsenal. It fused offense and defense into a single, raw value, dictating how elemental fury like roaring flames, crashing waves, or crackling thunderbolts would carve through foes. Picture the dim glow of that handheld console late at night, and pixels pulsing as a Blastoise unleashes Surf, its damage not probing some separate shield, but slamming straight into the target's own special armor, the same essence fueling the attacker's might. That fusion wasn't born from elegant design alone. It sprang from the gritty realities of the Game Boy's hardware, a pocket-sized marvel crammed with just 8 kilobytes of RAM and a processor chugging at 4 megahertz. Game Freak's team, racing against deadlines in a tiny Kyoto office, couldn't afford the memory for split stats per Pokémon or per move, so they streamlined certain types: fire scorching with embers, water surging in torrents, grass whipping with vines, electric arcing like summer storms, psychic bending minds, ice freezing breath, and dragon thundering from ancient skies. Those became the domain of Special. They shared one stat for hurling power and soaking it up, a primal logic etched by silicon limits. Moves of those types always drew from Special to Strike, always tested Special to endure, turning battles into a symphony of mirrored strengths and shattering weaknesses. This unity birthed monsters that redefined invincibility, creatures we now call special tanks. Take Chansey, that pink paradox, waddling into the fray with hit points ballooning past the 250 mark. But her true fortress was that towering special stat, often cresting at 200 or more after EVs and vitamins. She didn't swing fists or claws. She cradled eggs while lobbing thunderbolts or psychic blasts, each one probing the enemy's special, just as hers repelled incoming surf or fire blast. An opponent pouring special offense into her? It glanced off like rain on a mountain, her HP pool a bottomless sea that outlasted any barrage. And when she struck back, that same special fueled devastation, turning her into a healer who doubled as harbinger. Then there was Snorlax, the slumbering behemoth awakened by amnesia. That move, a self-inflicted haze of forgotten knowledge, jacked Special by 2 stages, multiplied it raw, no caps in those early days. A fresh-caught Snorlax with middling base stats could balloon to godlike heights, stacking rest for full recovery and endless amnesia loops. He'd yawn through hyper beams that shook the screen, his special wall shrugging off Alakazam's prized psychic, while retaliating with body slam, or even a pilfered special move. Mathematically, it was poetry in imbalance. If your attacker leaned special, Snorlax's boosted value dwarfed yours. 8 damage formulas fizzling to single digits, even from level 50 threats. Physical bruises, like Machamp. They pounded his middling defense, sure, but he'd heal amnesia again, and outgrind them into oblivion. These weren't flukes. Calculators from the era proved it. Chansey surviving 20+ Thunder Waves, from Zapdos, Snorlax tanking Mewtwo's full arsenal over turns that felt eternal. The Game Boy's constraints wove deeper into this elemental weave, with only 151 Pokémon and 165 moves. Tying categories to types saved precious code space. No need for flags per attack, just a type check at runtime. Fire Blast's Inferno, a pixelated blaze filling half the screen, always special, always probing that unified barrier. Thunder's jagged forks, Ice Beam's crystalline shards, they flowed through the same channel, it creating rhythms where a Vaporeon could sweep with acid armor, boosting that shared special evasion. Developers leaned into it, balancing around the fusion, legendaries like Articuno chilling the air with Blizzard, their special stats ensuring they reigned as mythic forces, untouchable by lesser physical blows. Yet this primal force set the stage for chaos lurking beneath. Special tanks dominated stadium circuits and link cable duels, players trading Sleep Talk Snorlax saves across Japan. their unbeatable math forcing meta shifts towards status and wraps. Chansey cradled the competitive core, her soft-boiled sustaining allies, while she absorbed the world's elemental wrath. It felt eternal, this fusion, like the ancient powers Pokémon lore whispers of, where a Dratini's dragon rage merged raw outburst with inherent resilience, echoing Rayquaza's skyward dominance yet to come, but that unbreakable pillar cracked under its own weight, revealing the tyranny of types that bound every move in Generation 1's grip. Up next, Chapter 2, the type tyranny of Generation 1, where we'll uncover how this elemental lockdown spawned ghosts in the machine and reshaped the entire meta forever. But that unbreakable special wall those tanks like Chansey and Amnesia Snorlax built, it only told half the story of Generation 1's chaos. The real chokehold came from a system so rigid it shackled entire types to one fate, physical or special, regardless of how the move looked or felt in battle. Picture the pixelated fury of a flamethrower erupting from Charizard's jaws, flames twisting like living serpents across the Game Boy screen. You'd swear it was pure brute force, a dragon's breath scorching armor to ash. Yet in those early days of 1996, every fire move slammed into the special category, drawing straight from the user's special stat to pierce the target's special defense. No amount of fiery animation could change that decree. Water surges like hydro pump, cascading in digital torrents that should drown foes under tidal weight. Special. Grass whips from Venusaur's vines, razor leaf slicing like physical blades through the air. Still special every time. Electric bolts crackling from Pikachu's cheeks. Thunder shocking with raw voltage that screams physical impact, locked as special, funneling through that single special offense value we just unpacked. This wasn't whimsy, it was a foundational law etched into the code by Satoshi Tajiri and his team at Game Freak. And they grouped types into two camps. The special ones, fire, water, grass, electric, psychic, ice and dragon, always channeling mystic or elemental energies through the special stat. The rest, normal, fighting, poison, ground, flying, bug, rock, and yes, even ghost, were branded physical, leaning on attack to batter defense. Why this split? It echoed the lore of Pokemon's world, where special attacks evoked otherworldly forces, waves of psychic dominion, draconic auras, icy blizzards born from legendary tempests. Physical ones? Raw, tangible clashes, punches, bites, earthquakes, rumbling through the earth. Yet this type tyranny bred brutal ironies that warped the meta from Kanto's outset. Take Gengar, that mischievous haunt floating through Lavender Tower's shadows, its poison ghost, typing promising spectral terror. With a special stat soaring at base 110, it should have been a special menace, hurling otherworldly curses at foes. But ghost moves? Curse to physical? Lick, that slimy tongue lash dealing fixed damage in the dead of night. Bypassed special entirely, clanging off the target's defense with Gengar's middling attack of 65. Nightshade, weaving shadows to sap life equal to the user's level. Same story, physical, ignoring that sky-high special prowess. Stab, same type attack bonus, kicked in for ghost hits, boosting them by 50%. But it rang hollow when your ace stat sat idle, wasted on a framework that didn't care about your spectral essence. Gengar wasn't alone in this mismatch. Players in 1996 tournaments scratched heads as their special sweepers starved for tools. Alakazam, a psychic juggernaut with 135 special, feasted on its type's special slot. Psychic blasts like confusion shredding tanks. But swap to a physical, ghost like Gengar, and suddenly you're bodied by Snorlax's Body Slam, a normal physical move that paralysed half the time, while your own arsenal flailed. The animation lied. Gengar's lick looked ethereal, phasing through defences like mist, but mechanically, it was a weak jab, averaging puny damage against beefy defences, turning the ghostly special attacker into a gimmick at best. This rigidity rippled everywhere, Electric types like Zapdos with their 90 special dominated special thunderbolts. But ground moves like Earthquake, physical by decree, let physical tanks like Raiden claim the earth-shaking throne. Fire Pokémon couldn't punch with Ember, they beamed it special. Grass stayed locked in vine spells, and solar flares never truly melee. It forced breeders to chase EVs in the wrong stat, like pumping attack on special beasts, or special on physical bruisers, just to scrape viability. Chansey, our special tank queen from last chapter, laughed off flamethrower specials, but crumbled under physical hyperfangs from poison types. Type tyranny, flipping the script mid-battle. And the lore? It deepened the curse. Ghost types born from Pokémon, like the ghastly line said to haunt dreams and curse the living, evoked psychic horrors in the Pokédex, souls unbound, phasing through walls. Yet mechanically, they punched like brawlers, clashing with flying's physical aerial dives or rock's stony barrages. Imagine training your Gengar through Pokémon Tower, feeling its eerie presence, only for it to underperform because the game deemed ghosts physical entities as tangible as a Machop's karate chop. Game Freak later admitted this ghost quirk stemmed from early balancing oversights. Ghost was meant to counter Psychic, but with 100% accuracy, misses on Psychic moves due to a coding glitch and physical classification neutering its stars, it became the ultimate troll. By the end of Generation 1's run, from Red and Blue's 1998's Western launch to Yellow's 1999 glow-up, this system calcified strategies. Special types monopolized the offense meta, physical ones, the contact paralysis games, body slam everywhere, thanks to King's Rock precursors in glitchy flinch chains. But cracks showed. Why force Draco Meteor's Draconic Rage special when Dragonite could claw physically? Why deny Venusaur a solar beam that hit defense? The tyranny begged for reform, setting the stage for fractures that would shatter it all. That fracture builds next in Chapter 3, the Psychic Hegemony, where one type's special stranglehold nearly broke the game entirely. Stick around, because the mind over matter wars that followed will redefine everything you thought you knew about dominance. But in the rigid world of Generation 1's type tyranny, where every psychic move was locked into the special category, one force emerged as utterly unchallenged. Psychic types claimed the throne of special attacks, sweeping across Kanto's battlefields like an unstoppable psychic storm. You could feel it in every matchup. Pokémon like Alakazam, with its spindly arms channeling raw mental energy, boasted blistering special attack stats that turned foes into afterthoughts. Moves like Psychic itself, a searing beam of telekinetic fury, dealt massive damage by slamming straight into the unified special defense stat, often paralyzing survivors in the process. And it wasn't just power. Recovery options like Recover kept these glass cannons in the fight far longer than they had any right to be. Starmie spun through teams with Psychic and Thunderbolt, its gem core pulsing with otherworldly light, while Slowbro tanked hits on its special side and fired back with amnesia-boosted blasts that no one could touch. What made this reign so absolute? The counters simply didn't exist. Bug types meant to prey on psychic weaknesses were cursed with physical moves that bypassed the special stat entirely. A pin missile from Pinsir or Scyther's Slash, brutal in animation sure, with claws slashing through the air, but they relied on pitiful attack stats and slammed into solid physical defenses, doing laughable damage to special walls like Executor or even Mook. No bug move pierced the special veil. They were grounded in the physical realm, forever outmatched against minds that fought from afar. Ghost types fared even worse, their ethereal promise reduced to tragedy. Lick from Gengar, a slimy spectral tongue lashing out, was physical, scraping harmlessly off psychic immunities. Ghost moves dealt zero damage to psychic types in those days, a glitch born from the type chart that left Haunter and Gengar as glorified status spreaders at best. Nightshade fixed damage, but still physical. useless against the special juggernauts. Imagine pouring your strategy into a ghost sweep, only for your attacks to phase right through, while Alakazam's Psybeam drills holes in your team. The meta-bent knee, Psychic-dominated tournaments, with players stacking Kadabra lines and Mr. Mime mirrors because nothing else could compete in the special lane. This wasn't coincidence, it was mechanical destiny. Psychic types filled every special slot on competitive teams, from the slow-building Hypno to the explosive Mew with its barrier setups. The unified special stat amplified their edge, turning modest defences into fortresses against their own element. While physical attackers flailed, over 80% of top ladders ran at least one psychic heavy hitter, reshaping how trainers built around Kanto's core. You trained for the mind's eye, not the fist. And looming over it all was Mewtwo, the lab-forged apex of this psychic empire. Born from human ambition, in the shadows of Cinnabar, its lore screamed dominance, a cloned legend engineered to surpass Mew. Its body, a vessel for boundless psychic potential. In battle, it embodied that myth. Sky-high special attack, moves like Psywave, rippling across screens in pixelated waves, ignoring levels to punish indiscriminately. Swift stars homed in unerringly, psychic beams cracked the digital arena, and with barrier or amnesia, Mewtwo became a god among Pokémon. Its 82 base special stat dwarfed rivals, reflecting the scientist's dream of ultimate power made real. Trainers whispered of its rampages, a purple phantom erasing squads before they blinked. Mewtwo wasn't just strong, it mirrored the era's imbalance. It's a special colossus with no true rival. Bug and ghost dreams dangled like broken promises, their physical chains holding them back while psychic soared free. Battles turned predictable, psychic leads, sweeps, victory. The hegemony pulsed through every cartridge, every link cable duel. Yet even empires fracture under pressure. Whispers of change stirred in Johto's winds, where the special stat itself would split into offense and defense, unraveling Kanto's psychic stranglehold. Stick around for Chapter 4, the Great Schism of Johto, to uncover how that seismic shift redefined the battlefield forever. Psychic's reign over the special realm in Kanto left little room for rivals, those frail bug and ghost moves barely scratching the surface of its dominance. You could stack psychic types with the highest special stats, and they'd shrug off everything from thunderbolts to fire blasts like summer rain. But then came Johto, a land of new horizons and sharper edges, where Game Freak unleashed a change that cracked the foundation of special battles forever. In 1999, Pokémon Gold and Silver arrived, carrying players across the sea to a region alive with evolutions and fresh rivalries. Amid the towering tin towers and the whispers of legendary beasts, a mechanical revolution hid in the code. The single almighty special stat that fused powerhouse handling both offense and defense split cleanly into two distinct forces: special attack for unleashing havoc and special defense for weathering the storm. No longer could a Pokémon wield the same number for blasting foes and blocking blasts. Specialization became the rule, and the meta trembled. Picture the battles before this schism. A beast like Alakazam could pour its special might into psychic waves, slamming opponents, while its own special shield held firm against retaliation. Trainers built walls that attacked as fiercely as they endured, turning special categories into unbreakable fortresses. But Johto demanded choices. Pump up your special attack to rival the gods, and your special defense crumbles under pressure. Bolster that defense to laugh at elemental fury, and your offensive punches weaken to mere taps. The split forced every special user into a lane, predator or guardian, ripping apart the old gods of balance. This wasn't just numbers on a screen, it reshaped the soul of competition. In Kanto's shadow, special sweepers like Starmie had danced freely, their unified stats letting them pivot from offense to survival without compromise. Now, in Johto's gyms and Elite Fours, you had to commit. A high special attack monster like Espeon could rain down psychic devastation, but swap in a special tank, and suddenly it's vulnerable. Its defense is too thin to endure a counter barrage. The meta balanced itself through sacrifice, trainers agonizing over EVs and natures, sculpting Pokémon that excelled in one role but faltered in the other. Johto's wilds echoed with this tension, every battle a test of foresight. No Pokémon felt this schism more acutely than Chansey. The pink paradox of Kanto, with its sky-high special stat and endless healing eggs, had been a nightmare for special attackers. It tanked hyper beams and surf surges effortlessly, Gorse then fired back with potent thunder waves or ice beams from the same unbreakable pool. Chansey wasn't just a wall, it was a special monolith, offensively viable while defensively invincible. But the split nerfed it hard. Chanseys kept their massive special defense, evolving into behemoths that could sponge entire meteor showers. Yet their special attack plummeted to mediocrity. Those once threatening special moves now fizzled, turning Chansey from a dual threat terror into a pure defensive specialist, reliant on partners for damage. Enter Blissey, Chansey's evolved form. Born from a moonstone under Johto's stars, she amplified the nerf into supremacy. With special defense soaring even higher, natural HP bulkier than a Snorlax feast, and soft-boiled recoveries that mocked aggression, Blissey rose as the ultimate special wall. Trainers layered her with leftovers for endless sustain, seismic toss for reliable chip, and toxic to melt aggressors over turns. She didn't attack with special fury anymore. She endured it, forcing foes to overextend and crumble. The Chansey nerf birthed a new era, dedicated special tanks that defined stall teams, while special sweepers like Kingdra or Umbreon had to carve niches elsewhere, their paths diverging forever. Johto's schism rippled through every corner. Gengar, still haunted by physical ghost moves, gained breathing room as special options like Shadow Ball loomed on the horizon, but for now, the split honed its poison-laced special assaults. Electric types like Ampharos thundered with boosted special attacks, yet Raichu variants leaned defensive to counter. Even legendaries felt the pull, Suicune's calm waters now guarded with special defense, while its offensive ripples demanded investment. Battles grew tactical, less about raw special supremacy and more about exploiting the divide, where a misplaced EV could doom your ace. This great divide of Johto didn't erase Special's elemental majesty. Fire blasts still scorched, psychics bent minds, but it humbled them, weaving vulnerability into power. Trainers in the Indigo League adapted, their teams a mosaic of specialists, each Pokémon a piece in a grander strategy. The meta found equilibrium, not through dominance, but through the beauty of trade-offs, setting the stage for wilder innovations ahead. As we drift toward Chapter 5, Hidden Power and the Elemental Wildcard, you'll uncover how a single move shattered these clean lines, introducing chaos from within every Pokémon's hidden potential. Stay tuned, because what comes next will redefine everything you thought you knew about type tyranny. As the dust settled from Johto's great schism, with special attack and special defense now standing as distinct pillars of power, trainers quickly realized the old chains hadn't fully shattered. Moves still bowed to their types, locked into physical or special realms by birthright alone. Fire blasts forever special, normal punches eternally physical. But lurking in the shadows of gold and silver came a whisper of rebellion, a move that dared to defy the rigid elemental decree, Hidden Power. This enigmatic technique emerged not as a flashy spectacle, but as a subtle enigma, tucked away in the move lists of even the humblest Pokémon. You can picture a wild Rattata scurrying through Johto's tall grass, its hidden power humming with potential no one could predict. Unlike Surf's inevitable waves or flamethrowers' roaring flames, Hidden Power's essence shifted like mist in the wind. It could manifest as any type, from the searing bite of fire to the crushing weight of rock. electric's crackle to poison's insidious seep, even slipping into the elusive ghost or dark shades introduced just that generation prior. 16 possibilities in all, each a wild card drawn from the Pokémon's very core. What fueled this chameleon strike? Not random chance, but the hidden veins of individual values. Those invisible numbers etched into every Pokémon at birth. IVS, as breeders would later obsess over, ranged from 0 to 31 across 6 stats: hit points, attack, defense, speed, our special attack, special defense. Hidden power peered into 4 of them: defense, special attack, special defense, and speed. It wove their binary secrets, each IV either even or odd, into a formula that spat out a type. A perfect 31 in defense might tilt toward fighting's raw edge, while a mismatched speed could summon ice's brittle chill. Trainers stared at their captures, oblivious to the elemental wildcard coiled within, only discovering its true face when battle forced it to strike. This veil of secrecy transformed breeding grounds into alchemical labs. Savvy players in the late 90s pored over calculators, chaining soft resets on shiny eggs, tweaking IV spreads, not just for raw stats, but to sculpt hidden powers type to perfection. Want coverage against water types? Breed for electric hidden power on your Joltsin. I need a grass punch through rock walls? Coax grass from a Ditto's lineage. Yet the category remained shackled to the pre-split era's type tyranny. Your fire hidden power surged through special attack against special defense, while a ground variant pummeled with physical might. It was chaos wrapped in calculation, a move that honored the old rules, even as it mocked their limits. Deeper still lay the lore that bound hidden power to Pokémon's ancient mysteries. Whispers among Sinjo Ruins explorers pointed to Unknown, those floating glyphs birthed in Johto's depths. A swarm of 28 forms, each an letter from an eldritch alphabet. Unknown danced in ruins where reality thinned. Legend spoke of them as fragments of the universe's script, channeling universal elemental energy, a primal force predating types themselves. Hidden power, do they say, tapped this wellspring, drawing from the same cosmic ink that scripted Unknown's endless patterns. In the games, Unknown learned it naturally, their attacks flickering unpredictably, as if echoing the puzzle boxes and relic stones scattered across Johto. Researchers in the Pokémon world debated, were IVs merely stats, or echoes of Unknown's inscrutable code, programming every creature with a shard of multiversal power? Encounters with Unknown swarms fueled the myth. In the Solacean ruins, spelunkers felt the air thicken, letters orbiting like stars, their hidden powers lashing out in barrages of forgotten elements. Competitive trainers harnessed this. Imagine a Gengar, still starved for special ghost stab, slapping electric hidden power to fry Swampert swimmers, or a Tyranitar unleashing ice to shatter opposing Blissey walls. It added layers no guidebook could fully map. A traded Pokémon might harbour ice hidden power, worthless against dragons, but devastating versus grounds, its secrets buried until the arena lights hit. Breeding masters elevated it to art. By Gold and Silver's end, players chained thousands of eggs, hunting perfect IVs where hidden power typed ideally. 31s across the board, yielding timid natures with flawless coverage. Forums buzzed with formulas. Multiply defense 4x15, add special attack, modulo something or other, the math a siren song for the sleepless. Yet flaws persisted. Normal and fighting eluded hidden power entirely, preserving some type sanctity. And in double battles, creeping into the meta, twin hidden powers could synergize unpredictably. One dragon to bait, another fairy precursor in steel, all veiled until unleashed. This elemental wildcard rippled through stories beyond stats. Fan tales painted hidden power as the Everymon move, embodying Arceus's 1,000 arms, each a different force. Enown's dimensional rifts, glimpsed in Pokémon Crystal's bonus events, hinted at larger truths. hidden power as a key to Unknown's reporting forms, summoning legendaries through typed resonance. In the Pokémon World's labs, professors like Elm pondered if every capture encoded such power, a universal energy trainers unwittingly wielded. As Generation 3 dawned on the horizon, these hidden depths set the stage for bolder evolutions in battle mechanics. But the true revolution brewed in Hoenn's tropical mists, where abilities would awaken to twist categories in ways hidden power could only dream. Up next, Chapter 6, Hoenn and the Birth of Abilities, where Pokémon began to bend the rules of power like never before. While hidden power introduced that tantalizing wildcard, letting any Pokémon tap into virtually any type through its individual values, Generation 3 in Hoenn took the physical and special split to a whole new frontier, birthing abilities that could warp a Pokémon's raw damage potential like never before. Picture the sun-baked shores of Hoenn, where Ruby and Sapphire launched in 2002, and suddenly your Marill isn't just a watery special attacker anymore. No, with the debut of huge power, this unassuming bubble mouse doubled its attack stat outright, transforming physical moves into absolute wrecking balls. Imagine sending out an Azurill, its tiny paws clenched, and watching that ability kick in at the battle's start. Attack skyrockets to twice its value, turning a modest rollout into a ground-shaking cascade that crumples foes relying on their sturdy defense. Trainers whispered about it in early competitive circles, how this ability bypassed the old type tyranny entirely, letting water types like Marill pivot to physical dominance without a single stab conflict. And it didn't stop there. Pure power arrived on Medicum, the meditating fighter from the Hoenn Mountains, mirroring huge power's doubling effect, but honed for a psychic fighting blend. Medicum's fists, glowing with disciplined energy, now hammered through physical defenses that once shrugged off special blasts. These abilities weren't mere buffs, they redefined viability, forcing opponents to rethink their bulky special walls. A Blissey with sky-high special defense, useless against a huge power Azumarill chaining Aquatails, its physical payload ignoring that spongy special barrier. Hoenn battles pulsed with this new tension. Did you stack attack EVs to abuse these doublings, or pray your special sweepers could outspeed the monster before it connected? This manipulation of physical damage rippled through the meta, spotlighting Pokémon overlooked in Johto's shadow. Azumarill, evolving from the Gen 2 Marill, became a tanky behemoth, its huge power synergizing with moves like Belly Drum to sacrifice health for an attack stat so obscene it one-shot even legendaries. Pure power Medicum swept tiers with Zen Headbutt precursors, its physical strikes piercing the veil of special focus strategies. Game Freak had cracked open the physical side of the equation, proving that abilities could elevate brute force beyond type constraints, setting the stage for an arms race in stat amplification. Yet Hoenn's innovations didn't end with raw power boosts. The region, steeped in elemental chaos from its legendary Weather Trio, introduced moves that danced with the environment itself, shifting their very category through weather's whims. Enter Weather Ball, a deceptively simple orb conjured from the sky's mood. Normally normal type and physical, but under rain, it morphs into a deluge of water, flipping to special and slamming with boosted special attack against sodden defenses. Sandstorm turns it rock physical again. Hail spawns ice special shards, and sun ignites fire special fury. Kyogra's drizzle summons perpetual rain, priming Weather Ball for special water devastation from any user, while Groudon's drought bakes the field for fire dominance. Trainers in Hoenn gyms exploited this fluidity ruthlessly. A Swablu under Hail launches ice weather balls as piercing special lances, bypassing physical walls that laughed at its dragon breath. The move's power doubled in weather, but more crucially, its category flip exploited the lingering type-based split. Physical in sun for rock or fire, special in rain for water or ice, forcing you to scout the opponent's ability before committing. It was environmental chess where a single drizzle could turn a physical, normal orb into a special tidal wave, drowning special tanks that assumed safety. These weather ties wove into Hoenn's law of primal forces, echoing Rayquaza's skyward gaze over storm-ravaged seas. Your competitive play exploded with teams orbiting these shifts, Drizzle Pelipper spreading rain for special weather ball spam, or Sandstream Tyranitar grinding foes, while its rock variant pummeled physically. Hidden power from the prior era now layered atop this. A hidden power. Fire Under Drought became a special inferno, its IV tune type aligning perfectly with Weather Ball's fire form for unrelenting elemental barrages. And visually, oh, the Game Boy Advance unlocked sorcery for special moves that the grainy Game Boy Color could only dream of. Particle effects bloomed like Hoenn's tropical blooms. Surf crashed in foaming crests of blue pixels. No longer flat sprites, but swirling waves with frothy trails and splashback droplets that lingered on screen. Thunderbolts forked with crackling electricity, jagged chains illuminating the battlefield in stuttering flashes, while psychic waves rippled as distorted auroras, bending the air with shimmering distortions. Fire blast erupted in star-shaped infernos, embers scattering like fireflies before fading into smoke wisps. These weren't just prettier animations, they amplified the special mystique, making elemental blasts feel alive, mystical, forces channeled through your handheld. Blizzard howled with blizzarding flurries that obscured vision, individual snowflakes drifting post-impact, a far cry from Gen 2's static sheet. Ice Beam lanced as a coherent ray, refracting light into prismatic trails that evoked legendary chill. Even grass moves, like Solar Beam charged under Hoenn's sun, with glowing pollen bursts, petals unfurling in radiant spirals. The GBA's horsepower let special attacks embody their lore. Hyper Beam's cataclysmic discharge, now a pulsating core expanding into a screen-filling explosion. Recoil visualized as shuddering exhaustion. Physical moves gained punch too, but special ones soared, their particle-heavy nature turning battles into symphonies of light and energy. Hoenn's legacy? It planted the seeds of true balance, where abilities like huge power didn't just boost physical damage, they challenged the special hegemony, and weather moves like Weather Ball proved categories could bend to strategy. Trainers left Sapphire's depths or Ruby's peaks forever changed, wielding Pokémon whose power shifted with the winds. But lurking in these advancements was a paradox for one ghostly icon, a glitch in the type-based system that Hoenn couldn't fully fix. Next time, in Chapter 7, the Gengar paradox will unravel how this haunted trickster was shackled by physical ghost moves, starving its special potential until the inevitable split set it free. Stick around, because its redemption rewrote competitive history. While Hoenn's arenas echoed with the raw doubled fury of huge power and pure power, and Weather Ball twisted its form from a harmless, normal puff into crackling electric wrath or scorching fire blasts depending on the skies above, a deeper injustice haunted the competitive scene, one that no ability or environmental trick could fully mend. Gengar floated there, in the spotlight, its perpetual grin masking a mechanical nightmare. This mischievous haunt, born from the gaseous wisps of Ghastly and the clutching fingers of Haunter, I entered the world in 1996 as the ultimate trickster. Trainers adored it instantly, its sly eyes gleaming under that jagged purple hood, its body a swirling void that seemed to swallow light itself. In the anime, it menaced Ash's Pikachu with gleeful malice, cementing its status as a fan favourite. Stat sheets promised dominance, base speed of 110, a special attack that would soon balloon to 130 after Johto's refinements, and that delicious typing of Ghost and Poison, immune to normal and fighting, resistant to poison and bug. On paper, Gengar screamed Special Sweeper, a spectral sorcerer hurling otherworldly energies from afar. yet the type tyranny clamped down hard. In Kanto's rigid world, every ghost move thudded as physical. Lick, its signature jab, barely tickled at 30 power, de-scraping off a measly fraction, even from Gengar's middling attack of 65. Nightshade fixed damage to the target's level, reliable but uninspired. No scaling with stats. Poison moves fared no better. Poison Sting, a pitiful jab. Smog, which poisoned but hit like a feather. No ethereal blasts, no psychic surges befitting a ghost's lore. Trainers jury-rigged movesets with borrowed firepower. Psychic for coverage, Thunderbolt to zap waters, Fire Punch if you could stomach the physical commitment. Gengar danced around foes, hypnosis lulling them to sleep, Dream Eater feasting on their slumbering minds. But its stab moves, those core ghost and poison strikes, felt like blunt clubs swung by a wizard who longed for a wand. Johto's split of special into attack and defense only sharpened the blade of frustration. As now Gengar's special attack soared independently, untouched by its paper-thin special defense of 75. Imagine pouring EVs into that 130 base, watching it crest past 300 at level 100, only for Shadow Ball, introduced in gold and silver as this glorious purple orb of doom to crash against the target's defense stat. Shadow Ball debuted with 80 power, a tempting upgrade over Lick's pathetic swipe, laced with a 20% special defense drop chance. Lore-wise perfection, Gengar condenses grudges into a malevolent sphere, hurling it with vengeful glee. But mechanically, physical, always physical, because Ghost typed it. Poison Jab wouldn't arrive until much later, and even then, physical. Your Glass Cannon Ghost punched like a Machop. Its massive special attack gathering dust, while foes walled it with sturdy defences like Snorlax or Steelix. Communities erupted in forums and magazines. Game FAQs threads stretched pages long, trainers lamenting how Gengar, the poster child for special havoc, idled on the sidelines of the meta. Psychic types like Alakazam lorded over special charts, their stab blasts flowing freely, while Gengar scraped by in niche roles. Maybe a revenge killer with explosion, or a status spreader. Fan art depicted it weeping spectral tears. Petitions circulated on sites like Bulbagarden for ghost-type reform. Why did the lore paint Gengar as a curse-wielding phantom, yet deny its special ghost ammunition? Haunter's Pokédex entry whispered of dragging people into shadows from walls. Shouldn't that be a surging wave of darkness, not a haymaker? Competitive vets shared war stories, worlds tournaments where Gengar fell flat against physical tanks, its potential a tantalizing what-if. 3 generations Kanto, Johto, Hen, this paradox persisted, a beloved icon reduced to a gimmick, its grin turning rueful. Hoenn only amplified the agony. Abilities like Levitate granted Gengar perfect ground immunity, syncing with its floating lore, but no fix for the category curse. Return or Frustration could leverage its high happiness investment physically, yet that betrayed the theme. Trainers bred hidden power ghosts or electrics, chasing stab illusions, but it rang hollow. Weather Ball tempted in rain teams, shifting to water special under drizzle, but Gengar rarely fit those cores. The meta shifted toward physical bruisers, Blaziken with Blaze Kick, a Swampert slamming with Earthquake, while Gengar haunted lower tiers, whispering promises it couldn't keep. The outcry built to a fever pitch by Ruby and Sapphire's end. Nintendo's design notes, pieced from interviews, hinted at awareness. Game Freak's Morimoto later reflected on how type-locked categories stifled creativity. Fan campaigns trended, make ghosts special again. Memes predated modern slang, artwork flooding DeviantArt, with Gengar unleashing hypothetical energy beams. It wasn't just balance, it was thematic betrayal. Ghosts in Pokémon lore embodied the intangible, souls, shadows, grudges unbound by flesh. Poison evoked insidious toxins seeping through veins, not fists. Aligning mechanics with story-demanded revolution. That revolution brewed in Sinnoh's labs, where the final threads of this paradox would unravel. Hold tight as we step into Chapter 8, the great physical/special split, where one change transformed not just Gengar, but the entire battlefield forever. Gengar's curse lingered through 3 full generations, that towering special attack stat forever mismatched with its ghostly arsenal of physical strikes. But in 2006, as Pokémon Diamond and Pearl swept into the Sinnoh region, everything shattered and reformed in a way no trainer could ignore. The great physical special split arrived, severing the rigid chains that bound move categories to their types alone. Picture the old world for a moment, that type tyranny where water moves like surf crashed as special attacks, no matter the Pokémon unleashing them. Fire Blast roared special, Thunderbolts arced special. Every grass knot and ice beam locked into that ethereal realm of special attack against special defense. It didn't care if your beast packed raw attack power. Those elemental forces were mystic by decree, waves of energy that bypassed muscle and bone. Dragon Rage, Psychic Blasts, they all danced in the special sphere, leaving physical bruises like Gyarados adrift, their surging attack stats wasted on weaker normal or flying options. You could teach Gyarados Hydro Pump, sure, but it tapped that middling special attack, turning a Serpentine Terror into just another middling special shooter. Then Diamond and Pearl flipped the script entirely. Moves gained their own identities, categories etched into each one, independently of type. Waterfall tumbled physical now, a roaring cascade slamming with attack and defense. Aquajet rocketed physical, a blistering rush of pressurized fury. Flamethrower stayed special, flames licking the air as pure energy, but suddenly Iron-Tail whipped physical for steel, Earthquake physical for ground. No longer did type dictate destiny. Each move chose its battlefield, physical or special, freeing Pokémon to wield their strengths without compromise. This wasn't some minor tweak, it reshaped the entire franchise's bones. The most profound mechanical evolution in Pokémon history. Before, typings forced awkward fits. Your high attack water type starved for power, dumping points into a special attack it barely needed. Now, stab aligned with stats seamlessly. Gyarados, that coiled dragon of the seas, erupted anew. Dragon Dance swept its attack and speed skyward, then Waterfall or Aquatail crushed foes with full ferocity. No longer diluted by special calculations, Intimidate dropped enemy attack on Switch In, and suddenly this Gen 1 staple dominated Sinnoh ladders, a physical juggernaut where once it floundered. Gengar felt the liberation deepest, its paradox erased in an instant. Shadow Ball, that spectral orb of malice, swung special, channeling every ounce of that obscene special attack into Ghost Stab glory. No more Lick or Nightshade as pitiful physical jabs. Now Sludge Bomb poisoned physical if you wished, but the real arsenal, Shadow Ball, Dark Pulse, even new tricks like Focus Blast, unleashed hell from the special side. Gengar floated through battles untethered, Hypnosis lulling, Destiny Bond trapping, explosions of ghostly energy that echoed its lore as a midnight haunt, born from spectral grudges in the shadows of Pokémon Tower. The ripple hit everywhere. Blaziken's Blaze Kick ignited physical, Fire Stab, pairing sky-high attack with close combat barrages. Infernape blended physical Mach Punch priority into special Vacuum Wave, a fighting inferno unbound. Even legendaries bowed to the shift. Rayquaza's Dragon Ascent would later soar physical in later gens. But here Draco Meteor plummeted special, a draconic cataclysm that drained its own power, mirroring legends of sky tyrants, unleashing forbidden might. Dark types gained teeth too. Dark Pulse throbbed special, a psychic-tinged wave of malice, while Crunch gnashed physical, giving options where once they leaned one way. Trainers adapted in droves, Sets revolutionized overnight. No more pumping special attack on your Gyarados just to salvage surf. Invest in attack, slap on life orb or choice band, and watch it sweep. Competitive scenes exploded with viability rankings redrawn. Pokémon dormant for years surged back, their stats spread suddenly perfect for their move pools. Sinnoh's Battle Frontier tested these waters, where a well-timed physical Ice Punch from Mamoswine or Special Thunder from Zapdos decided towers. It balanced the meta profoundly, ending the era where type alone crippled potential, birthing a world where every Pokémon could shine through smart category synergy. Yet the split's genius lay deeper in how it honoured Pokémon's essence. Special moves evoked those ancient elemental forces. Surf's tidal dominion, like Kyogre's primordial waves, Thunder's bolt from Zapdos's storm-racked peaks, Psychic's mind-shattering auras straight from Mewtwo's lab-forged rage, physical ones grounded in raw exertion. Yeah, fists and fangs and falls. Diamond and Pearl didn't just fix mechanics, they amplified the lore, letting Gyarados embody the raging sea serpent of myth, Gengar, the vengeful spirit unbound. This decoupling echoed through every generation after, a foundation unshaken even as anomalies crept in later, like Psyshock piercing physical defense with special might. But in 2006, it was pure revolution. The moment Pokémon battles matured from type-locked chaos to stat-savvy mastery. And as Sinnoh's flames flickered toward new brawlers, whispers grew of elemental punches rising from the ashes, fists wreathed in ice, thunder, fire, poised to punch through the split's fresh boundaries in ways that would redefine close-quarters carnage. Before we dive deeper into this incredible journey, I'm curious, where in the world are you watching this from? Drop a comment below and let our global community know. And if you're finding this as mind-blowing as I am, hit that like button to help more people discover this story. But amid the chaos of that great split in Diamond and Pearl, one quiet revolution was already brewing in the shadows of the arena. 3 unassuming punches that had languished as special moves for years, suddenly empowered to strike with raw physical force. Fire Punch, Ice Punch, Thunder Punch. These weren't the sweeping blasts of flame or frost you'd expect from their elemental names. Back in the type-tied days of generations 1 through 3, they drew from a Pokémon special attack stat, flickering harmlessly like distant sparks against beefy defenses. Imagine Hitmonchan, the kicking boxer of Saffron City gyms, jabbing with fists wrapped in illusory fire that barely singed a Snorlax's hide. Or Machamp, that four-armed brute from the fighting dojos of Kanto, whose thunderous hooks fizzled because they leaned on special power it never had. Trainers overlooked them, relegating these punches to niche tricks against paralyzed foes, or for status effects. The burn from Fire Punch, the freeze from Ice Punch, the paralysis from Thunder Punch. They were contact moves, yes, but their damage felt like a whisper. Not the bone-crunching impact their animations promised, with pixels of electricity crackling or ice shards flying in those early Game Boy sprites. Then came Generation 4. The split decoupled everything. No longer chained to their elemental type's special heritage, these punches flipped to physical. Fire Punch now scaled with attack, smashing through special defenses that had mocked it before. Hitmonchan's attack stat, honed from years of pummeling sandbags in the fighting dojo, finally had outlets worthy of its spikes. Machamp, with its obscene base attack of 130, could now deliver Thunder Punch like a freight train laced with lightning, paralyzing and pulverizing in one glove-wrapped swing. Viability exploded overnight. Pokémon that had idled on teams as bulky supports or setup sweepers suddenly headlined battle frontiers. Take Hitmonchan. In the pre-split era, it was a curiosity, a Pokémon whose move pool screamed physical brawler. Yet its best stab came from Mach Punch or Sky Uppercut, while elemental coverage languished special. Post-split, trainers in the Diamond and Pearl metagame layered Fire Punch for steel types, Ice Punch to shatter dragons and grounds, Thunder Punch to numb waters and flyers. Its ability, Iron Fist, boosted those punches by 30%, turning it into a revenge killer that could pivot into threats like Nape or Staraptor. Competitive replays from 2007 show Hitmonchan wall-soaping Gyarados with frozen fists, a matchup unthinkable before. Machamp took it further. Evolving from the unassuming Machop lineage, this powerhouse had always promised devastation, but delivered middling results. Now with Dynamic Punch for confusion, Cross Chop for critical hits, and Elemental Punches for coverage, it became a staple in physical-heavy squads. Picture a four-armed Colossus in the battle tower, soft fists glowing crimson as Fire Punch melts Blissy's special tankiness, or blue with Ice Punch to freeze Garchomp mid-Dragon Rush. Its no-guard ability in later games amplified this, guaranteeing hits that paralysed half the field. Even in casual play, kids in Paldea or Hisui experimented with punch-focused teams, echoing the lore of ancient fighters whose touches carried the fury of storms. And here's where the lore deepens. These weren't just mechanical tweaks. Pokémon moves carry stories etched into their code and animations. Contact moves like punches demand intimacy, a brush of skin or glove against foe. Pre-split, touching an opponent with Fire Punch meant channeling ethereal special energy through that contact. Like a monk's Kai-infused strike, but the split redefined touch itself. Now, physical punches embodied true melee brutality, the heat searing flesh directly from muscle-powered swings, the chill numbing nerves on impact, electricity arcing through conductive contact. In the Pokémon world, this mirrored evolutions in trainer philosophy, from distant elemental summons to up-close bonds, where a Pokémon's raw strength fused with nature's wrath. Hitmonchan's Pokédex entries paint it as a boxer studying human techniques, its gloves hiding extendable spikes. Post-split, those spikes drew blood with elemental might. Viable in tournaments where it outsped and OHKO'd threats. Machamp, said to toss mountains or leap buildings, now punched with the force of legends. Its four arms, a whirlwind of fire, ice, thunder. Even newcomers like Medicum joined. Yet its pure power ability, doubling attack for punches that rivaled priority moves. The meta shifted. Physical walls like Skarmory dreaded these coverage options, forcing switches into special attackers they couldn't handle. This punch renaissance rippled outward. Moves like Brick Break gained elemental siblings, but the originals shone brightest. In Platinum's Distortion world, where gravity twisted, a well-timed thunder punch from Machamp grounded Giratina's shadow. Trainers shared stories on forums in 2008. My Hitmonchan just swept Cynthia's team. Fire Punch on Lucario, Ice on Garchomp. Viability charts flipped. Punching Mons climbed tiers, their contact clauses in competitive rules suddenly enforcing strategy around items like Rocky Helmet. Yet for every rise, shadows lingered. While punches empowered the brawlers, they exposed new weaknesses. Priority users like Sizer could bullet punch back before the swing landed. Still, the elemental fists redefined arenas, turning forgotten fighters into stars. As these physical punches carved their legacy, a spectral sphere began gathering momentum on the special side, promising a revolution of its own in our next chapter, Shadow Ball and the Special Revolution, where ghostly energies finally unleashed their full haunting potential. While Machamp and Hitmonchan reveled in their newfound physical punch power, flexing those elemental fists across Sinnoh's battlefields, a different revolution was brewing in the ethereal realms of ghost types. Shadow Ball, that sinister sphere of spectral energy first conjured in the Johto region back in Generation 2, had always carried the weight of untapped potential. Trainers whispered about it in hushed tones during late-night strategy sessions, a move born from swirling shadows, capable of condensing pure ghostly malice into a volatile orb hurled at foes. Yet for years, it struck as a physical blow, slamming into defenses with brute force rather than piercing the soul, where it truly belonged. Picture Gengar, that mischievous haunt, with its cavernous grin and sky-high special attack stat, floating through 3 generations of frustration. In the old type-based system, ghost moves like Lick and Nightshade were chained to the physical category, forcing this special powerhouse to swing like a brawler it was never meant to be. Gengar's attack stat languished in the shadows, barely half its offensive potential, while rivals like Alakazam unleashed psychic barrages unhindered. And Shadow Ball arrived in gold and silver as a glimmer of hope, a ghost stab move with a chance to lower special defense, but still physical, diluting its menace against sturdy tanks. Competitive circuits buzzed with workarounds, choice band boosts, substitute setups, anything to mask the mismatch. Gengar clawed for relevance, a king without a crown, dodging hypnosis-induced nightmares of irrelevance. Then came Diamond and Pearl, the Sinnoh dawn of Generation 4, and the physical special split shattered those chains forever. Game Freak assigned categories to moves themselves, not types, unleashing a cascade of rebalanced fury. Shadow Ball emerged reborn, now a gleaming special attack, its dark energy coalescing not from muscle, but from the user's surging special attack against the target's special defense. Gengar inhaled deeply, or whatever phantoms do, and exhaled dominance. That orb, once a clumsy projectile, now rocketed with precision, boasting 80 bases of power and 80% accuracy that rarely faltered, and that delicious 20% shot at dropping special defense by 1 stage. Suddenly, Gengar wasn't just viable, it was a terror, sweeping teams with Destiny Bond traps, explosion finishes, and Shadow Ball spam that left opponents' psychics and steals vaporized. Battles in Sinnoh's Platinum Arenas told the tale. Trainers unleashed Gengar against Cynthia's Garchomp, watching the dragon's physical bulk shrug off claws, while Shadow Ball carved through its lesser special defense. Tournaments lit up with Gengar parties, where Haunter evolved late game into purple nightmares, to choice specs amplifying the orb to cataclysmic levels. The move's animation evolved too, from pixelated gloom in Johto to a pulsating violet sphere in Sinnoh, gathering shadows before erupting in a spectral blast that echoed through foggy roots and distortion world rifts. It crowned Gengar as the Ghost King it deserved to be, retroactively healing the wounds of generations 1 through 3, where this high special attack behemoth had idled on the sidelines. But the split's ripples extended beyond ghosts, reshaping the entire spectral spectrum, and crucially, into the abyss of dark types. Dark Pokémon had lurked in physical shadows since their Generation 2 debut, moves like Crunch and Pursuit gnashing with attack stat ferocity. Special attackers among them, like Umbreon with its defensive bulk, or Absol foretelling doom, de-starved for options. No reliable stab special move existed. They borrowed from others, Thunderbolt on occasion, or Shadow Ball cross-type, but nothing pure, nothing that embodied the sly, insidious nature of darkness. Trainers jury-rigged sets with Calm Mind on Miss Magias or Nasty Plot on Weevil, but Dark Stab remained a physical monopoly, leaving special dark dreams in the dust. Enter Dark Pulse, forged in the fires of the split as Sinnoh's gift to the shadows. Debuting alongside Shadow Ball's ascension, this special dark move pulsed with 90 bases of power, hitting like a psychic throb of malice, waves of dark energy rippling from the user, battering special defenses with 30% flinch potential. Imagine Houndoom exhaling it across lava fields, or Spiritomb channeling it from its forbidden odd keystone. Flinching foes mid-revenge kill, Game Freak crafted it deliberately, a reliable special anchor for dark types, evoking lore of pulsing voids and nocturnal auras, filling the void where Sludge Bomb served poison and Psychic reigned supreme. Suddenly Honchkrow soared with Nasty Plot into Dark Pulse barrages, and Drapion menaced with its scorpion tail, whipping up special spite. Sinnoh's landscape shifted like mist at dawn. Old Pokémon, dusty relics from Kanto and Johto, found electric new life. Gengar patrols haunted Platinum's post-game, but so did revived stars like Misdreavus, now twirling special Shadow Balls under full restore reigns. Dark types proliferated, Weavile slicing through Hail teams with special Ice Punch complements, but Dark Pulse securing sweeps. The split breathed vitality into forgotten lines. Crobat darted with special Cross Poison viability. Banette stitched Nightmares with special Shadow Claw edges. Even legendaries stirred. Giratina's Shadow Force gained context in a world where special ghosts thrived. Competitive metas tilted, OU ladders filled with special Gengar leads, Dark Pulse Houndoom counters to Psychics, all while physical bruises like those punching Pokémon from before adapted in tandem. This special revolution didn't just buff icons, it redefined balance. Moves once mismatched now sang in harmony with stats, turning type matchups into symphony. Ghost coverage exploded, piercing psychics that once walled physical ghosts. Dark gained teeth against ghosts and psychics without relying on bulky physical frames. Sinnoh trainers, from casual roots battlers to battle tower ascetics, discovered synergies undreamt. Gengar, paired with Tyranitar Sand for evasion boosts, Dark Pulse flinches, chaining into sweeps. The distortion world itself seemed to pulse with approval, shadows deeper, orbs brighter. Yet as ghosts and darks claimed their thrones, dragons watched from ancient perches, their own special cataclysm brewing. In the next chapter, Draco Meteor and the Dragon's Descent will soar into the fiery downfall of legendary might, how one move scorched the skies and humbled even the mightiest worms. You won't want to miss the roar that followed the shadows. As the shadows of Dark Pulse faded from the battlefield, leaving dark types with their first true special thunder, another ancient force stirred in the skies above Sinnoh. Each Draco Meteor wasn't just a move, it was the dragon's reckoning, a celestial hammer forged in the hearts of stars, crashing down with the base power of 130, the highest any dragon-type special attack had ever wielded. Picture the moment in Pokémon Diamond and Pearl when the physical special split had freshly liberated moves from their type-based chains. Dragon types, long confined to special status in the old regime, now demanded a signature that matched their mythic fury, and Game Freak delivered not a mere blast, but a cataclysm. Draco Meteor summons a blazing meteor from the Dragon's Maw, streaking across the heavens like a falling empire, exploding on impact in a vortex of raw draconic essence. Its animations evolved from that stark Generation 4 pixel storm, fiery trails piercing the night, to the radiant eruptions of later games, where shards of cosmic dragonfire rain down, scorching the earth and shaking the arena. But this power came laced with peril, a double-edged fang that defined its legend. After unleashing Draco Meteor, the user's special attack plummets by 2 stages, a brutal 40% drop in most scenarios, leaving even the mightiest dragons vulnerable, their follow-up assaults reduced to whispers. This wasn't oversight, it was deliberate poetry. Dragons in Pokémon lore embody untamed primordials, beings born from the world's genesis, like Dialga twisting time itself, or Palkia warping space. Their energy pulses as special because it's not the crude swing of claws or tail, it's the mystic surge of creation's fire. She channeled through ethereal special attack stats rather than physical might. Rayquaza, the Sky High Lord from Hoenn, learned it first among the elite, a nod to its role as the Ozone Guardian, who quelled the primal clash of Kyogre and Groudon. Imagine it coiled in the atmosphere, jaws agape, drawing down a meteor that mirrors its own mega-evolution desperation. Dragon Ascent, another self-sacrificing plunge. Yet Draco Meteor's curse tempers that godlike rampage. In competitive battles from Generation 4 onward, trainers whispered of the Draco Drop, a mechanic that forced strategy over spamming. A Rayquaza sweeping with 130 power, devastating. But the backlash drop invited counters, turning legendaries into glass cannons. Their special attack halved, begging for switches or setup plays. Giratina, the renegade from the distortion world, wields it as a shadow of its otherworldly exile, the meteor tear in reality's fabric. Dialga and Palkia, Sinnoh's creation duo, hurl it like fragments of their domain-shattering origins. But that special attack plummet echoes the balance of the universe they embody. Power invites fragility. Even non-legendaries like Salamence and Garchomp dabbled in its glow, but it shone brightest on those box art titans, ensuring no single dragon dominated unchecked. In the cutthroat tears of Diamond and Pearl's immediate aftermath, Draco Meteor redefined dragon viability, pairing with items like choice specs for one-shot nukes, only to crumble afterward, demanding teams built around prediction and revenge kills. This side effect wove deeper into the lore of draconic hubris. Dragons aren't mere beasts. They're archetypes of ascent and fall, hoarders of forbidden might who caught their own undoing. The move's name, Draco Meteor, evokes Latin roots of serpentine doom, a dragon's meteor plummeting like Icarus scorched by the sun. Visually, from Platinum's crackling descent to Sword and Shield's prismatic blaze, it paints dragons as conduits for stellar chaos, their special nature underscoring that dragon energy defies the physical world's rules. It's not punching or slashing, it's invoking the primordial roar that birthed continents, a force too vast for flesh alone. In events and distributions, Draco Meteor amplified the mystique. Rayquaza's Heart Gold and Soul Silver outings in 2010 let players witness it firsthand, while later titles like Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire tied it to Delta episode lore, where meteorites herald Deoxys incursions, echoing Draco's starry summons. Competitively, it birthed archetypes like the Specs Draco user, but the drop mechanic curbed abuse, especially pre-fairy types when dragons reigned supreme. Post-fairy emergence in Generation 6, it became a high-risk finisher, balancing the raw output that could otherwise trivialize teams. Thematically, this positions Dragon as the ultimate special lineage, a counterpoint to the physical brutes like Fighting or Steel. Where Shadow Ball ghosted through defenses with spectral subtlety, Draco Meteor thunders as the dragon's apex, its self-inflicted wound a reminder that true power devours its vessel. Latios and Latias, the Eon duo, lend its psychic draconic grace. Reshiram and Zekrom in Unova hint at ideals clashing through such forces. Even in remakes, like Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, its animations pulse with renewed vigour, the drop ensuring dragons remain legends, not tyrants. Yet as Sinnoh's dragons descended in glory and ruin, Unova's innovators beckoned with a twist that blurred the lines entirely. Up next in Chapter 12, the Unova innovation, Psyshock and the Mind-Body Bridge, will uncover how a single move shattered the physical special divide, letting psychic fury pierce defenses in ways that redefined battles forever. What happens when the mind strikes the body directly? While Draco Meteor forced even the mightiest dragons to pay a steep price for their fury, shattering their own special attack in the aftermath, Unova's designers turned their gaze to a subtler revolution, one that pierced the heart of Pokémon battles by blurring the line between mind and muscle. In the region of Unova, where black and white ideals clashed like thunderheads, Generation 5 unveiled Psyshock, a psychic assault unlike any before it. This wasn't just another beam of mental energy lancing through the air, it harnessed the user's towering special attack stat, yet slammed into the target's physical defense, as if the sheer force of thought had coalesced into a battering ram. Picture a Reuniclus, its gelatinous form pulsing with ethereal glows, channeling waves of telekinetic pressure that don't bend reality around the foe. They crush straight through bone and sinew, ignoring the spongy barriers of special defense that had shielded tanks for generations. That mental force, drawn from the deepest lore of psychic Pokémon, manifested as raw physical impact. In ancient texts in the Pokémon world, whisper of mind-over-matter disciplines, where trainers in far-off dojos taught their partners to weaponize cognition itself. Psyshock embodied this bridge. The user's psyche doesn't erode the opponent's will or warp their aura. It delivers a concussive blow, like an invisible hammer forged from pure concentration. In animations, you see it unfold as jagged violet shards erupting from the user's brow, hurtling forward to erupt against the target's body in a shockwave of cracking energy, leaving bruises that no special ward could repel. This innovation shattered stalemates that had defined competitive play. Take Blissey, the eternal special wall, her immense hit points and sky-high special defense turning her into an unbreachable fortress against mages like Alakazam or Starmie. You trainers layered her with leftovers for endless recovery, soft-boiled after soft-boiled, mocking special sweepers who chipped futilely at that impenetrable veil. But Psyshock changed everything. A Jellicent, drifting like a spectral lantern, with special attack honed to a razor's edge, unleashes it. And suddenly Blissey's comparatively frail physical defense buckles. The egg Pokémon staggers, her plush form rippling from the telepathic pummeling as damage formulas flipped. Special attack times, physical defense weakness exposed a vulnerability no one saw coming. Battles in the 5th generation's meta warped around this mind-body bridge. Special attackers, long starved against bulky special defenders, found new life. Latios streaked across the field, its iridescent scales shimmering. Psyshock carving through Snorlax or even Ferrothorn variants that dared pivot in. Competitive teams scrambled. Do you stack physical defense now, diluting your special bulk, or risk the old guard crumbling? Tournaments from Black and White's launch in 2011 echoed with tales of upsets. A modest Meowstic variant, overlooked until Psyshock tutorials flooded forums, dismantling hyper-offense squads built on chancy lines. Game Freak didn't stop there. They wove siblings into the tapestry. Psystrike, Mewtwo's genetic inheritance, echoed the theme for the legendary clone, its megaform amplifying the paradox as psychic supremacy battered flesh directly. Then came Secret Sword, Keldeo's blade of Psyche slashing with special attack precision against physical bulwarks. Oh, and this wasn't coincidence. Unova's lore tied these to a renaissance of swordmasters and psychics, where Colosseum challengers honed techniques blending swordplay with seance. Keldeo, the cult of justice, learned it naturally, its horn igniting in cerulean fury before cleaving illusions of safety. Photon Geyser would later adapt the concept in Generation 8, choosing the user's highest attack type dynamically. But Unova planted the seed. Why bind damage to rigid categories when the mind could dictate the battlefield's rules? The ripple effects lingered, forcing evolutions in strategy. Pokémon like Bronzong, once dual-walled, now flinched under the assault, their steel frames denting from intangible origins. Trainers whispered of Psy punches, mental jabs that hit where it hurt most, bypassing recovery loops and wish-passing chains. In doubles formats, it synergized brutally, pair a Psyshock user with a Taunter, and special walls folded like wet paper. Even lore hounds delved deeper. Psychic types in Unova's story, from the Looker Bureau to the Pokémon musical, symbolized this fusion. Performers levitating props with force that could dent stages if unchecked. Yet this bridge invited peril. Over-reliance bred counters. Physical walls bulked up. Abilities like Sturdy gleamed anew, and priority moves punished the setup. Still, Psyshock etched itself into history, proving Generation 5's boldness. Special power needn't dance around defenses, it could redefine them. As Unova's innovations settled, eyes turned to a peculiar event that same year, where a tiny fox legend would ignite special fire in ways no dragon could match. Speaking of which, up next in Chapter 13, the Victini event and V-Create will uncover how a liberty-winged Pokémon crashed the meta with a blazing special attack that burned through defenses and demanded every trainer's attention. Stick around, because this one's power came with a curse all its own. While Psyshock carved a new path for special attackers to shred through walls like Blissey by ignoring their special defenses, Unova's designers weren't done twisting the knife on traditional battle dynamics. Enter Victini, the tiny mythical fox whose arrival in 2010 shook the competitive scene like a supernova in a bottle. Event Pokémon, distributed starting in Japan on August 13th, 2010, through a special Wi-Fi promotion tied to the Pokémon movies. Victini, with its victory star emblem glowing on its forehead, embodied pure triumph in Pokémon lore, a being said to bring unending victory to those who befriend it. But what made it legendary wasn't just its psychic fire typing or its base stats hovering around 100. No, it was V-Create, a signature move so potent it arrived exclusively on these event versions locked behind the mystery gift code. V-Create erupted onto the scene as a special fire-type blast, boasting 120 base power, enough to rival the heaviest hitters in the special arsenal. Imagine the animation. Victini channels a roaring inferno from its ears, unleashing a colossal flame shaped like its victory emblem, scorching the battlefield in a blaze of psychic-fueled fury. This wasn't your standard flamethrower or fire blast. It leaned hard into special attacking prowess, drawing on Victini's sky-high special attack stat of 110 to obliterate foes. Yet, in a stroke of genius, it carried a brutal recoil, sharply lowering the user's defense, special defense, and speed by one stage each after firing. That drawback blurred the lines like never before. Traditional special moves, think Draco Meteor or Shadow Ball, punished the attacker with special attack drops or status woes, keeping the focus on the ethereal, elemental side of battle. Physical moves, on the other hand, often battered the user's body. Recoil damage, stat drops to defense or speed from things like Double Edge or Flare Blitz. V-Create, it smashed those categories together. A special powerhouse with physical vulnerabilities, forcing players to rethink how they deployed their glass cannons. Competitively, this event exclusive hit like a meteor. In the early black and white meta, before full 5th gen tiers solidified, Victini swept through tournaments. Its move pool synergized brutally. Fusion Flare for sun-boosted doubles devastation, a psychic stab like Psychic or Zen Headbutt, and coverage like Grass Knot to handle waters and grounds. But V-Create was the star, outspeeding threats with its base 100 speed, nuking steals like Excadrill or Ferrothorn that walled other fires, then taking the hit but pivoting out on a weakened foe. The stat drops turned it into a high-risk gambit. Drop your defenses after one blast, and suddenly you're bait for priority moves, like Mach Punch or Revenge Killers sweeping in. Speed loss meant you couldn't always double up safely. Players adapted with choice items to spam it safely once, ignore Tailwind support in doubles to mitigate the slowdown. It forced a shift. Special sweepers now had to play like physical berserkers, predicting switches, stacking hazards, or relying on momentum. Event exclusivity amplified the hype. Only those who grabbed the distribution before it ended in 2011 wielded the full package, breeding a black market for legit Victini and sparking endless Smogon debates on event bans. This wasn't just power creep, it was category fusion in action. Post-split, Generation 4 had freed moves from type tyranny, but V-Create pushed further. Fire, long a special domain since Gen 1, now wielded a tool that echoed physical sacrifice moves like Brave Bird or Volt Tackle. Designers blurred roles deliberately, foreshadowing anomalies like Psyshock by making special output demand physical resilience. Victini's lore tied in perfectly, the Victory Star granting infinite energy but at the cost of vulnerability, mirroring real-world tales of Triumph's toll. Events like this one, tied to movie tie-ins and global distributions, became breeding grounds for Metashakers. Remember Entei's shiny event that same year? It packed Flare Blitz, a physical fire behemoth, alongside extreme speed, but Victini flipped the script, proving Special Fire could dominate with the right twist. Over time, V-Create trickled to other fires via tutors in later remakes, but its debut as an event lockout cemented Victini as a pioneer. The ripple effects lingered. High-power moves with defensive penalties redefined balance. No longer could you spam nukes without consequence, echoing Draco Meteor's special descent but hitting the whole defensive profile. Walls like Heatran or Jellicent had to respect the initial boom, while hyper-offense teams orbited around the cleanup. It elevated Victini from cute mascot to Smog and Uber staple, where even there it carved niches until bans reshuffled the ladder. As Unova kept innovating, these event-forged weapons hinted at deeper swordplay ahead. What if Psychic Blades could mimic this mind-over-body havoc on a legendary scale? Brace yourself for Secret Sword and the Swords of Justice, where the line between Psyche and Steel gets slashed wide open. As event-exclusive powerhouses like Victini began to blur the rigid lines between Special Fire and Raw Force in Unova's battlefields, another legendary cult emerged from the shadows of Generation 5, wielding a weapon that redefined what a sword could truly be. Secret Sword, Keldeo's signature strike, wasn't forged in fire or tempered by thunder. It was a blade of the soul, a psychic surge that danced through the air like liquid starlight, slicing not at the body's armor, but at the essence beneath. Picture the Swords of Justice, those noble guardians born from Unova's ancient myths. Cobalion, the steadfast leader with its iron will and steel-clad resolve, stood as the unbreakable shield among Pokémon, protecting the weak from humanity's encroaching greed. Terrakion, the colossal ram of the mountains, embodied raw, earth-shaking might, its horns capable of toppling fortresses in a single charge. Virizion, the lithe empress of the forests, moved like a verdant whirlwind, her grass-woven grace outpacing any hunter's arrow. Together, they formed a triad of valor, relics of a time when Pokémon and people clashed in endless strife. Their legend whispered in the ruins of forgotten battlegrounds. But Keldeo, the pure-hearted foal, was different. The youngest of this sacred quartet, it wandered alone, seeking the strength to join its elders. In the lore of Black and White, Keldeo trains in distant waters, honing its spirit until it evolves into its resolute form. A majestic steed with a blazing mane and eyes like polished sapphires. Only then does Secret Sword awaken, a move born not from physical forging, but from the depths of the psyche. This wasn't your typical slashing strike, no crude edge of metal clanging against plate. Standard blades demand brute force, pitting attack against defense in a clash of sinew and steel. Secret Sword defied that eternal dance. It channeled Keldeo's special attack, that ethereal reservoir of psychic and elemental fury. Yet it carved through the target's physical defense, as if the opponent's armored shell were mere illusion. Feel the paradox in your mind's eye. A special attack glowing with otherworldly energy, a radiant arc of blue-white plasma, humming with the cult's unyielding resolve, bypassing the special defense that had long walled off psychic titans like Alakazam or Reuniclus. In the damage formula of 2011's Battle Engine, it flipped the script entirely. Where Psyshock from the previous innovations had begun bridging mind and body by hammering physical walls with mental force, Secret Sword perfected the heresy. It ignored the spongy barriers of Blissy's special defense, or Jellicent's ghostly wards, plunging straight into the raw vulnerability of bulkier foes built for physical brawls. Think Sawsbuck or Conkeldurr. Their hides tough as oak, but psyches exposed. This anomaly wasn't just a mechanic, it was poetic justice woven into Unova's competitive heart. Generation 5's meta simmered with special sweepers dominating the sunlit arenas, from Hydreigon's draconic blasts to Chandelier's spectral flames. Physical tanks like Excadrill burrowed deep, laughing off elemental barrages with their lofty defences. Enter Keldeo, a mid-tier legendary at first glance, its base stats hovering in the 60s, nothing world-shattering. Yet Secret Sword elevated it to terror status. Players in the black and white leagues whispered of Soul Slash builds, pairing the move with Swords Dance for a special attack boost that turned the Colt into a guillotine, a modest base power of 110-90% accuracy. But that category inversion, it shredded teams reliant on mixed defences. Imagine the battlefields of 2011's VGC tournaments, where coordinators from across Unova gathered under stadium lights. Keldeo bursts forth in resolute form, horns aglow, summoning the sword not as a tangible weapon but as a psychic extension of its will, a shimmering veil that phases through armour, targeting the structural weaknesses hidden beneath. Opponents like Ferrothorn, with their iron barbs and sky-high physical defence, suddenly crumpled under special pressure they never trained for. It forced innovators to rethink EV spreads, layering special defences onto physical bruisers or banning the Colt outright in suspect tests. In the broader landscape, Secret Sword echoed Psyshock's rebellion, but with a knightly flair, making Keldeo a unique threat, not the overwhelming god of Rayquaza's future ascents, but a precise scalpel in a world of hammers. Delve deeper into the lore, and the Sword of the Soul reveals its mythic roots. Ancient Unovan tapestries depict the swords of justice fleeing human poachers, their forms silhouetted against crimson skies. Keldeo, separated and despairing, meditates by sacred springs, visualizing its blade not as cold iron, but as flowing ki, a manifestation of inner justice. When it manifests in battle animations, from the pixelated glow of the original sprites to the fluid, ethereal trail in remasters, the sword coalesces from pure energy, humming with harmonic resonance before vanishing like mist. It's no coincidence it learns alongside moves like Aqua Jet and Icy Wind. Keldeo's arsenal blends the Colt's watery heritage with psychic precision, a testament to balance in a split era still healing from type tyranny's past. Competitively, this made Keldeo a wildcard darling. In the lead-up to Black 2 and White 2's release, event distributions in 2012 sent ripples through online ladders, players hacking or trading for the resolute encounter, only to find their Garchomp walls pierced effortlessly. It pressured the meta's physical heavy core, from Bishop's defiant stands to Haxorus's dragon rushes, compelling trainers to diversify or perish. Unlike Victini's event Blaze that scorched indiscriminately, Secret Sword demanded strategy. Predict the switch, bait the bulky pivot, then strike the soul. In doubles formats, it synergized with Terrakian's Stone Edge or Varichin's Geiger Drain, reforming the Justice Trio as a defensive nightmare. Physical coverage up front, special soul cuts from the Colt. Yet for all its edge, Secret Sword carried the weight of Legend's humility. No status inflictions, no secondary effects beyond raw damage, just pure, unflinching judgment. It mirrored Keldeo's journey, unassuming until resolute, then unstoppable. In Unova's lore, this move symbolizes the triumph of spirit over steel, a reminder that true strength pierces deeper than any forge could temper. And as Generation 5's innovations like this psychic blade set the stage for even wilder distortions, the world of Pokémon battles was about to explode with transformations that overloaded every category known. Up next in Chapter 15, Mega Evolution and Category Overload, we'll uncover how these megabursts redefine power splits in ways that would shatter teams forever. Stick around, because the overload is just beginning. While Keldeo's Secret Sword sliced through physical walls with the precision of a psychic blade, Generation 6 unleashed something far more cataclysmic, a temporary evolution that shattered every stat ceiling Pokémon battles had ever known. Mega evolutions arrived in the world of Kalos and Hoenn remakes, transforming familiar Pokémon into godlike behemoths by channeling the power of mysterious Mega Stones. These weren't mere power boosts, they were overloads, pumping attack and special attack stats into realms previously unimaginable, often exceeding 400 base points in a single category. Take Mega Mewtwo X for instance. Its attack soared to 190, a physical juggernaut that turned psychic types into close-quarters wrecking balls. But the real madness brewed on the special side. Mega Alakazam hit a blistering special attack of 175, while Mega Gardevoir reached 145 with perfect type synergy. These weren't incremental tweaks. Developers pushed the envelope so hard that base stats climbed 20 to 100 points overnight, forcing the entire competitive meta to recalibrate around these temporary titans. Physical attackers like Mega Lucario, with its 145 attack and adaptability-boosted close combat, clashed against special behemoths like Mega Venusaur, whose 130 special attack laced Sludge Bomb with poison perfection. The split between physical and special had never felt so visceral, each category weaponized to its breaking point. Yet amid this stat explosion, one Mega evolution eclipsed them all. Mega Rayquaza. Already a legendary Sky Guardian with sky-high base stats, Rayquaza didn't need a Mega Stone in the traditional sense. It demanded mastery of Dragon Ascent, a right that unlocked its primal form without one. But in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, they gave it the full Mega treatment anyway, catapulting its attack to 180 and special attack to 150. 60 total base stat points poured into offense, making it a dual-threat monster that laughed at category walls. Rayquaza's move pool became its secret weapon, a dizzying arsenal blending physical fury like Dragon Ascent and Extreme Speed, with special devastation such as Draco Meteor and Surf. You could lead with a Draco Meteor to nuke anything in sight, dropping your special attack but trusting raw power to one-shot most foes. Then pivot to Dragon Ascent for cleanup, its physical might ignoring special defenses entirely. This diversity turned Mega Rayquaza into an untouchable force. Competitive players dubbed it the Broken Dragon, dominating tournaments because no wall could handle both sides of its onslaught. A bulky special tank like Blissey, Draco Meteor evaporates it. A physical sponge like Tyranitar, Dragon Ascent crushes through. Even priority users faltered against its blistering 150 speed, letting Rayquaza outspeed and overwhelm before they blinked. Its Delta Stream ability summoned endless tailwinds, nullifying weather and weakening opposing moves, all while those overloaded stats ensured every hit landed like divine judgment. Rayquaza didn't just play the physical special game, it rewrote the rules, proving that true dominance came from wielding both categories without mercy. And oh, what a spectacle it all became in Generation 6's full three-dimensional glory. For the first time, Pokémon battles burst into fluid, cinematic animations that made special moves feel alive with elemental fury. Hyper Beam, that classic from the very first games, evolved from a pixelated flash into a colossal orange energy cannon, coiling through the air like a solar flare before erupting in a screen-shaking blast. You'd see the beam twist and roar, particles scattering as it hammered home, the recoil animation sending the user staggering back in exhaustion. Moonblast followed suit, a shimmering cascade of lunar energy, pink orbs swirling into a radiant explosion that bathed the battlefield in ethereal glow, fairies dancing in the aftermath. Draco Meteor painted the sky in apocalyptic strokes, meteors raining down as comet trails of violet fire, each impact cratering the ground with shockwaves that rippled visibly. Shadow Ball manifested as a pulsating orb of ghostly plasma, hovering menacingly before launching with a spectral wail, distorting reality on collision. These weren't static sprites anymore. They were symphonies of light, sound and motion, amplifying the overload of power. Physical moves like Dragon Ascent match the drama, a soaring dive from storm clouds, wings slicing air with thunderous booms. But special attacks stole the show. Their waves and blasts evoking ancient legends come to life. Rayquaza's own special arsenal shone brightest, Draco Meteor's downfall mechanic visualized as crumbling scales, a poignant reminder that even gods paid a price for such overload. This era marked the pinnacle of category excess, where Mega Evolutions didn't just push stats, they redefined what Pokémon power could visually and mechanically embody. Battles turned into fireworks displays of physics-defying energy, every special beam or physical slam a testament to Generation 6's ambition. As Rayquaza claimed its throne, the world wondered what could possibly top this overload, but the surge of power was far from over. In our next chapter, Alola and the Z-Move surge will explore how crystalline crystals took category chaos to crystalline extremes, fusing trainer bonds with explosive bursts that made Megas look tame. What happens when every Pokémon taps into Z power? You won't want to miss it. I hope you're as amazed by this as I am. If you want to stay updated on more content like this, make sure to subscribe and join our community of curious minds. Trust me, what's coming next will challenge everything you thought you knew. As the dust settled from Mega Rayquaza's cataclysmic reign, where raw stats bent the heavens themselves, Pokémon's world shifted to the vibrant archipelago of Alola, a chain of islands pulsing with an ancient rhythm all their own. Here, in Generation 7, power didn't just evolve, it erupted. Z-moves burst onto the scene, crystalline cataclysms that took the very essence of a Pokémon's attack and unleashed it as a torrent of unbridled force. You can almost feel the humid trade winds carrying the scent of plumeria flowers as trainers first donned the Z-ring, that gleaming bracelet forged from the island's sacred stones. Alola wasn't content with incremental boosts. It demanded transcendence. A Z crystal shimmering like a captured star and attuned to a specific type, slotted into the ring, and suddenly, any compatible move could transcend its limits. Take a simple Thunderbolt, that crackling special arc of electric fury relying on a Pokémon's special attack. It morphed into Gigavolt Havoc, a storm surge that drowned the battlefield in lightning veins, respecting its special roots while amplifying the damage to godlike proportions. Or consider a physical powerhouse like Extreme Speed, a normal type blur fueled by attack and checked by defense. Slip in the Normalium Z, laying and it becomes Breakneck Blitz, a supersonic charge that warps space itself, leaving trails of shattered earth in its wake. The beauty lay in that fidelity. Physical stayed physical. Special remained special. No blurring of lines, just pure category-driven devastation, scaled up to eclipse even the mightiest Mega Evolutions. A single move, honed through battles and bonds, converted into this massive burst of energy, its original power type dictating the explosive spectacle. But what fueled this surge? Not raw machinery or forgotten tech, but something profoundly Alolan. The unbreakable bond between trainer and Pokémon. The Z crystals weren't mere batteries. They were conduits for special energy, drawn from the island's lore-soaked veins. Legends whispered of the Tapu Guardians, Tapu Koko's electric storms, Tapu Lele's psychic mists, bestowing these gems upon worthy souls. To activate a Z move, you struck that iconic pose, channeling your synergy into the crystal, syncing heartbeats until the Pokémon glowed with borrowed radiance. Picture Lily, tentative at first, her Clefairy channeling the Fairium Z into a twinkle tackle that painted the night sky in starry explosions, its special might bypassing defenses that had stonewalled lesser assaults. Or Kukoi, the professor with a grin like the sun, syncing with his Incineroar for Inferno Overdrive, a physical blaze that turned the arena into a molten forge, attack stats surging through flames that licked the horizon. These weren't attacks, they were symphonies of shared will, the trainer's resolve igniting the crystal's infinite potential. Deep in Alola's lore, the crystals traced back to the island's creation myth. The Tapu, ethereal protectors born from the land's primal pulse, embedded their essence into these jewels eons ago. Only through profound trust could that energy awaken, mimicking the special forces of psychic waves or elemental auras from generations past, yet democratized for every trainer bold enough to prove their bond. Fail the pose, waver in spirit, and the crystal stayed dormant. Succeed, and you witness the ultimate expression. Physical might as earth-shaking colossi, special power as reality-warping tempests. Battles in the Alolan League became rituals of revelation. Kahunas like Hala unleashed Groundium Z's tectonic rage, physical quakes that split the Colosseum floors, while Olivia's Rockium Z summoned Continental Crush, special boulders orbiting like doomsday asteroids before annihilation. Olivia's? Wait, rock moves skewed physical, yet her Z form bent the rules just enough to highlight the category's versatility. And the legendaries? Lunala's menacing Moonrays Maelstrom, a special dark vortex devouring light itself, or Solgalio's Searing Sunrays Smash, physical solar flares scorching the soul. This Z-move surge redefined dominance. No longer did special attackers cower before bulky defenses alone. A Z-boosted surf from Prime Arena flooded special barriers with oceanic wrath. Physical sweepers, like Kartana, carved through special walls with Bloom Doom's special floral apocalypse. Wait, no, its grass affinity kept the category pure, vines erupting in verdant fury scaled to infinity. The math was merciless. Base power inflated, critical hits amplified, secondary effects often stripped for sheer output, all while preserving that sacred physical, special divide. Yet Alola wove caution into its chaos. Z-moves demanded a full-turn setup, the pose a vulnerable dance, locking you out of items or switches. One per battle per trainer, forcing strategic masterpieces. It honoured the split's legacy. Gen 1's type tyranny evolved into Gen 4's precision, now crowned in Gen 7's explosive harmony. Trainers bonded deeper, Pokémon shone brighter, and the islands thrummed with energy that felt alive, almost sentient. As Alola's Z-moves faded into legend, eclipsed by newer horizons, a subtle shift brewed in the mechanics, hinting at attacks that wouldn't just surge but adapt on the fly. That brings us to Chapter 17, Photon Geyser and Dynamic Adaptation, where a single beam decides its own path based on the stats that matter most. Pure curiosity, bait for what's next in this endless evolution of power. As the Z-moves faded from the Alolan battlescapes, their crystalline bursts leaving echoes of raw category-based fury, a new legend pierced the veil between worlds, demanding we redefine strength itself. Ultra Necrozma, the radiant behemoth born from Necrozma's desperate fusion with Solgaleo, emerged not as a mere evolution, but as a cosmic enforcer of light, its prismatic wings slicing through ultra space like shards of shattered stars. This wasn't just another Mega or Z-powered Titan, it was the harbinger of dynamic adaptation, wielding a move that laughed in the face of rigid categories. Picture the arena under Alola's perpetual twilight, Ultra Necrozma hovering. Its body a vortex of blinding photon streams, eyes glowing with the fury of a black hole inverted. When it unleashes Photon Geyser, the air crackles with psychic energy, a geyser of pure light erupting from its core, not bound by the old rules of attack or special attack. No longer did trainers have to choose between a Pokémon's physical brawn or its ethereal special prowess. Photon Geyser scans the user's stats in that split second, selecting whichever offensive force reigns supreme, be it the crushing attack honed through battles, or the soaring special attack fueled by mystic energies, and channels it fully, pitting it against the target's corresponding defense. This real-time adaptation was mechanical poetry. In Generation 7's Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, released in 2017, Photon Geyser debuted as Ultra Necrozma's signature, a priority move with base power of 85 that ignored abilities like Sturdy or Disguise, surging forward at +1 priority to strike before most counters could form. Imagine facing it. Your bulky defender braces, but the geyser morphs mid-flight, exploiting Necrozma's often superior special attack from its base form's legacy, blasting through special walls that had stood impregnable since Generation 1. Yet swap in a setup sweeper with boosted attack, and it flips seamlessly, hammering physical tanks. Shellside Arm would echo this later in Generation 8, Toxapex's venomous tendril, choosing the path of least resistance based on user strength or target frailty. But Photon Geyser pioneered the shift, proving categories could bend to the Pokemon's innate design. Ultra Necrozma itself embodied this pinnacle, starting as the enigmatic Necrozma in Sun and Moon, a Pokemon described in lore as a chimera devouring light to survive. It absorbed Solgalio's power through the Ensolarizer, transforming into this ultra form. Its stats exploded. Base attack at 167, special attack at 127, defenses mirroring at 109 each, speed at a blistering 129. No other Pokemon forced such versatility. Trainers couldn't predict or wall it easily. In competitive play, it terrorized Ultra League formats, its light that burns the sky Z move, amplifying Photon Geyser into apocalyptic damage, often one-shotting threats like Tapu Lele or Kartana, regardless of their defensive leanings. This move crowned the long evolution from Generation 1's type tyranny, where Ghost moves shackled Gengar to physical impotence, through the Generation 4 split that liberated Shadow Ball into special glory, past Psyshock's Mind Over Matter hybrids, and Secret Sword's Soul Blades. Physical and special weren't endpoints anymore. They were tools in a symphony of adaptation. Photon Geyser declared that true power lay in fluidity, in letting the Pokemon's strengths dictate the battlefield's reality. Developers at Game Freak had watched categories evolve, from Unified Special in '96, Split in '99, fully decoupled in 2006, and now, in Alola's finale, they forged the ultimate expression. A move that evolved with its user, mid-battle, embodying the lore of legendary forces unbound by mortal limits. Delve deeper into its animations, and the immersion heightens. In Ultra Sun and Moon, the geyser erupts as a towering pillar of rainbow light, pixels from earlier Jings giving way to three-dimensional fury, particles scattering like solar flares. By Sword and Shield in 2019, refined visuals showed it coiling around Necrozma's form before exploding outward, a visual metaphor for light's dual nature, wave and particle, physical and special intertwined. Lore ties it to Necrozma's ancient role as the pillager of light, a being that once merged with the world's radiance, now reclaiming it in adaptive vengeance. Fans theorized connections to Ultra Beasts, those otherworldly invaders, suggesting Photon Geyser tapped into the same extra-dimensional energies that powered Seed moves, but weaponized for precision dominance. Competitively, it reshaped metas. Before Ultra Necrozma, ain't special sweepers like Alakazam crumbled against physical walls. Now, one move bridged the gap. In VGC tournaments post-release, pairs with Tapu Koko or Pheromosa overwhelmed foes. Photon Geyser's priority punishing revenge killers. Balance patches in later games tempered it. Ultra Necrozma banned from most formats by 2020, but its legacy endured, inspiring moves like Celestial Slash in Scarlet and Violet, which echoed the adaptive spirit without fully replicating it. This wasn't innovation for innovation's sake. It honored the physical special saga, from Gengar's Generation 4 Renaissance to Mega Rayquaza's Overload, culminating in a mechanic where the Pokemon itself decided its path to victory. As we witness this dynamic pinnacle, where light bends categories to its will, the story surges toward Gala's max moves and stat manipulation in Chapter 18. What happens when entire Dynamax forms rewrite not just defense but the very fabric of stats in battle. You'll want to stay tuned for that revelation. As battles push the boundaries of adaptation with moves like Photon Geyser, shifting seamlessly to exploit a Pokémon's peak offensive potential, Generation 8 unveiled something even more transformative in the Galar region. A colossal surge of power known as Dynamaxing. Picture your Pokémon swelling to stadium-shaking sizes, their bodies crackling with an otherworldly crimson energy that rewrote the rules of every attack they unleashed. In Galar, when a Pokémon Dynamaxes, it doesn't just grow, it taps into a primal force that elevates every move into a max variant, and each one packing not only devastating damage, but a secondary effect that ripples through the battlefield. For physical moves, you see Max Strike crippling speed, Max Wormwind slicing away attack, or Max Quake summoning an electric field to supercharge those grounded strikes. But the true elegance shines in the special arsenal, where Dynamaxing turns Flamethrower into Max Flare, blanketing the field in harsh sunlight. Thunderbolt becomes Max Lightning, drenching everything in rain, and Surf transforms into Max Geyser, flooding the arena with endless mist. Every special move, no matter its origin, morphs into one of these max powerhouses, each tied to its type and laced with stat manipulation that lingers long after the initial blast. Max Ooze, born from poison or fighting specials, surges through your team's veins, erasing special defense for all allies by one stage. Imagine that sticky, viscous energy coating your Pokémon, turning them into unyielding fortresses against incoming mystic barrages. Max Starfall, the ethereal bloom from fairy specials, doesn't just dazzle with cosmic lights, it drapes the field in misty terrain, shielding against Stultus woes and amplifying fairy might for turns to come. This isn't random flair, it's calculated brilliance. Take Psychic-type specials becoming Max Mindstorm. It whips up psychic terrain, boosting your own special attacks while blocking priority foes from sneaking in. Or Ice specials as Max Hailstorm, chilling the air to lower opponents' special defense across the board. Suddenly, a simple blizzard isn't just a frozen gale, it's a setup play that softens the enemy's defenses, paving the way for your sweepers to carve through with boosted special attack fury. Strategists in Galar quickly grasped the depth here. Why fire off a lone special nuke when you could chain max moves to sculpt the battlefield? Lead with a Max Starfall from a Dynamaxed Hatterene, terrain rising like a shimmering veil. Then follow with your Alakazam, hurling Focus Blast as Max Ooze, stacking special defense while the mist bolsters every fairy pulse. Opponents falter, their special defense crumbling under repeated Max Phantasm from Gengar specials or Max Darkness from Umbreon's allies, each hit siphoning resilience like shadows devouring light. The synergy deepened in doubles, where one Dynamaxed Venusaur's Giga Drain as Max Overgrowth sets grassy terrain, healing your side, weakening grounds, and priming Petal Blizzard follow-ups, while a partner's special Moonblast echoes as Max Starfall, layering defences in a verdant haze. Special attackers reigned supreme in these moments, their max forms not mere finishers, but architects of dominance, turning a single Dynamax turn into a multi-layered trap that outlasted the opponent's own growth. At the heart of this revolution pulses the lore of Eternatus, the colossal dragon whose invasion scarred Gala's skies. Legends whisper of this extraterrestrial behemoth crash-landing eons ago, its body a reactor of Dynamax energy, a radiant, volatile essence distinct from any elemental force or psychic wave. Unlike the brute physicality of ancient brawls or the mystic flows of special splits past, Dynamax energy represents a new category of power, harvested from power spots dotting the wilds, where the earth itself hums with crimson potential. Eternatus didn't just bring destruction, it awakened latent energies in Pokémon, allowing them to channel this force during power spot rituals. In battles at the Windun Stadium, that same energy erupts, your Pokemon's form expanding as if drawing from Eternatus's infinite core, red aura flaring, the ground trembling, air thick with the scent of ozone and scorched earth. Trainers who mastered it, like those in the gym challenge, wove Max moves into symphonies of control. A Corvic Knight's special air slash, as Max Airstream accelerates your squad. Then a Dragapult's Dragon Pulse, as Max Wormwind guts the foe's attack. All while special lowering Max Hailstorms from Froslass chill the counterplay. Yet this power came fraught with peril. Eternatus's darkest day, Rampage unleashed endless Dynamaxing, mutating Pokémon into wild giants rampaging through Hammerlock. Only Hop, Gloria, and their allies, empowered by Zacian and Zamazenta, could quell it, channeling the energy back into balance. In lore, Dynamax energy bridges the physical and special divide, a synthetic surge that amplifies both, but favours special manipulation for its terrain-locking precision, echoing Galar's theme of industrialised might clashing with primal roots. Players obsessed over these interactions. A Dynamaxed Excadrill might burrow with special earth power as Max Quake, electrifying the field for its steel allies, but swap to a special focused Clodsire, using Sludge Bomb as Max Ooze, hoisting team-wide special defense, while Toxapex walls absorb the reprisal. Hey, the meta twisted around these boosts, teams stacking terrain setters like Amoonguss for Max Overgrowth into Grassy Surge synergy, or spamming Speed Def drops with Max Darkness Chains to melt even the sturdiest Blissey variants. And in competitive circuits, the mind games peaked, feint a physical Max Knuckle to bait switches, then pivot to a special Max Flare Sunlight setup, scorching waters before they pivot back. Or in VGC, a Pelipper Dynamaxes into Max Geyser Rain, priming its own hurricane, while a Tapu Koko's special electric specials drop as Max Lightning, refreshing the downpour and crippling SP Death for thunderous closes. This era marked special moves' pinnacle of utility, not just raw output, but battlefield puppeteering, lowering defenses, erecting terrains, boosting allies in ways brute physical Maxes could only dream of matching. In Eternatus's legacy endures in every crimson glow, a testament to power's double edge. But as Galar's energy stabilized, new anomalies emerged in its waters, like the enigmatic shell-side arm wielded by the peculiar Galarian Slowbro, a move that defies categories in ways that will leave you rethinking everything we've covered so far. As Dynamaxing reshaped Galar's arenas with those cascading max moves that twisted special energy into stat-altering tempests, another Galar-born wonder emerged from the foggy coasts, one that didn't just boost or manipulate categories, it reinvented them on the fly. Shellside Arm, the signature strike of the Galarian Slowbro, stands as the most intricate damage dealer in Pokémon history, a move that peers into the future of every clash to choose its path. Picture a hulking Galarian Slowbro, its tail coiled like a question mark, that massive Shelder clamped vice-like onto its right arm. In the standard Slowpoke line from distant shores, Shelder bites the tail, triggering a sleepy evolution into Slowbro, where the bivalve's venom seeps into the pink flesh, dulling nerves and granting hypnotic stupor. But in Galar's briny wilds, evolution took a sharper turn. Shelder latches onto the arm instead, fusing with Slowpoke's extensible tentacle limb. That bite doesn't just evolve, it transforms the arm into a weaponized appendage, pulsing with adaptive poison. The shell's innards secrete a neurotoxin that rewires the Slowbro's biology, turning its limb into a dual-natured cannon, capable of brute force or ethereal venom blasts, whichever the moment demands. Shellside Arm unleashes from that very arm, a poison-type assault with 100% chance to poison, but its true genius lies in the calculation. The game doesn't commit to physical or special up front. No, it simulates both. First, it crunches the numbers as if physical. Your Galarian Slowbro's attack stat slams against the target's defense, factoring stab, type effectiveness, all the usual multipliers. Then, in a split-second shadow duel, It reruns the math as special. Special attack versus special defense. Whichever path yields the higher damage output, that's the one it takes. Physical, if your attack outmuscles their defense enough to top the special route. Special otherwise. It even accounts for stat stages. Abilities like huge power inflating attack mid-fight or screen softening defenses. This isn't adaptation like Photon Geyser, which merely picks your highest offensive stat. Shell Sidearm gazes at the battlefield's full stat tableau, offense and defense for both sides, and optimizes ruthlessly. Why such complexity? Dive into the lore and it mirrors the Shelder's bite itself. That clam isn't passive, its fluids catalyze a chemical symphony in Slowbro's arm. Imagine the venom as a polymorphic elixir. One strain thickens into a battering pseudopod for physical pummeling, slamming with raw tentacular might, cracking shells and armor like the Galarian coastlines pounding waves. The other variant thins to a spectral mist, infiltrating nerves and organs via special channels, an insidious brew that bypasses bulk for vulnerability. The Shelder evolved in Galar's polluted ports amid industrial runoff and ancient toxins gain this duality. Let its byssal threads weave into Slowbro's muscle, granting neural feedback, almost a sixth sense that lets the Pokémon feel which assault will pierce deepest. Trainers in Circuster's gyms whisper of Slowbros pausing mid-battle, arm twitching as if tasting the air, selecting the perfect venom vector. In practice, this elevates Galarian Slowbro from middling wall to tactical nightmare. Base stats hover modest, 95 attack, 70 special attack, but Shell Sidearm exploits any edge. Pair it with Assault Vest for bulk, or filter ability to pierce resists, and it shreds steals like Corvic Knight or Toxics like Toxtricity, flipping categories to exploit weaknesses. Competitive battles in Sword and Shield's ladder saw it rise, a bulky poisoner ignoring special walls like Zapdos by going physical, or punching through physical tanks like Landorus by shifting special. Abilities like Corrosion let it poison steals outright, amplifying the arm's toxic legacy. And that guaranteed poison? It stacks status pressure, forcing switches or revives, turning every hit into a lingering curse. Yet the move's elegance hides peril. If stats are dead even, ties default physical, but clever foes manipulate with Intimidate drops, or Aurora Veil screens, nudging the math. Galarian Slowking shares the move, its crown amplifying the cerebral side. But Slowbro's arm lore feels primal, tied to that visible, throbbing fusion. Evolutions in Pokémon mirror real-world symbiosis, think Remoras on sharks. But here, Shelder's poison glands merge with Slowpoke's neurochemistry, birthing a limb that embodies Galar's theme of twisted traditions. Slowpoke's fishing line becomes a lure for prey, but post-bite the arm extends meters, whipping Shell Sidearm with unerring precision. This complexity peaked in the Isle of Armor DLC, where Galarian Slowpoke populations teamed, their arms already Shelder-ready. Battles against them foreshadowed the move's debut, hinting at arms that could harden to clubs or dissolve into sprays. In the Crown Tundra, legendaries like Regileki tested its limits, forcing category flips against electric bulwarks. No prior move matched this foresight. Secret Sword ignored defense but stayed special-rooted, Sistriker Mind Blade. Shellside Arm, its evolutionary apex, a biological algorithm in flesh. As Galar's innovations peaked with such adaptive arms, the winds shifted toward Paldea, where the terrestrial phenomenon would shatter categories anew, letting Pokémon crystallize their very essence into game-changing prisms. While Shellside Arm masterfully flips between physical might and special fury based on raw damage potential, Paldea's terrestrial phenomenon shatters those boundaries altogether, letting a single crystal infusion redefine a Pokémon's entire offensive soul. Nestled in the sun-baked expanses of Paldea, where rolling hills meet jagged cliffs and wild Pokémon roam under endless azure skies, trainers stumbled upon an ancient secret buried in the Earth's veins. Gleaming terra shards, fragments of a primordial crystal lattice pulsed with iridescent light, drawing Pokémon like moths to a flame. When absorbed, these shards trigger terastallization, a breathtaking metamorphosis where a Pokémon's body erupts in a cascade of rainbow-hued crystals, hardening its form into a living gemstone. In that instant, its core type transmutes entirely to its hidden Tera type, a latent essence chosen at birth or forged through hidden rituals in Paldea's mysterious academies. This isn't mere superficial glow. The type shift runs soul deep, supercharging every move that aligns with the new Tera type. Normally, same type attack bonus multiplies a move's power by 1.5 times, but under terastallization, that surges to a full double, 2048 over 2048, in the raw math of battle. Picture a hulking iron treads, built for physical demolition, with its steel-clad wheels churning earth, suddenly terastallizing into pure electric fury. Its wild charge, already a thunderous ram, erupts with doubled potency, electrons arcing wildly as it barrels through foes. Defense be damned. Or flip the script, a frail special glass cannon like Fluttermane, ghostly wisps trailing its ethereal form, shifts to fighting Tera type. Close combat unleashes not just psychic-infused punches, but crystal-amplified barrages that crater the arena floor, ignoring the usual stat drops in a haze of empowered rage. Yet the true alchemy lies in how this empowers both physical and special arsenals without allegiance to birthright. A Pokémon shackled by low special attack can terastallize into water, transforming its surf from a middling splash into a tidal cataclysm that rivals Kyogre's deluge, waves crashing with the force of doubled stab. Defense piercing irrelevant. Physical bruisers, long envious of elemental special blasts, now claim them as their own. Baxcalibur terastallizes Dragon, and its Draco Meteor plummets not as a weak special whimper, but a meteor storm, doubled in wrath, icy scales shattering on impact. The crystals don't rewrite stats. They exalt the moves themselves, bridging the chasm between a Pokémon's natural inclinations and untapped type synergies. In Paldea's open-world battles, where wild encounters blend with competitive stakes, this turns underdogs into apex predators. Your loyal companion, once predictable, now a prismatic wildcard, adapting mid-clash. Enter Tera Blast, the phenomenon's crown jewel, a move as versatile as Paldea's terrains. Blank slate at heart, it molds to the user's Tera type, firing a customizable orb of energy, be it scorching flames, psychic pulses, or spectral voids. But here's the elegant twist. Its very nature pivots on the Pokémon's offensive hierarchy. Compare attack against special attack. If attack reigns supreme, Tera Blast manifests physical, a hurled crystal projectile, smashing with brute kinetic force. Should special attack dominate, it blooms special, rippling waves of elemental essence that bypass armor. Tied evenly, it defaults special, a nod to the mystic leanings of Paldea's lore. And when terastallized, this adaptive blast drinks deeply from the doubled stab wellspring, power spiking to devastating heights. This interplay births mechanical poetry, a physical titan like Dragapult, its attack soaring past special attack like a spectral jet through clouds. Terastallizes normal and unleashes Tera Blast as a physical haymaker. 100 base power, doubled to 200, slamming ghosts and steels where Dragon Stab falters. Conversely, a special virtuoso such as Iron Valiant, in blades humming with psychic overcharge, Tera shifts to fire and looses special Tera Blast infernos, melting bulky waters that once walled it out. No longer must you forsake coverage for category purity. Tera Blast hijacks your peak stat, channeling it through any type imaginable. In the heat of a doubles skirmish, it flips matchups. Your opponent's terrain setup crumbles under a surprise Tera Poison Blast from a physical ground type. Venom crystals corroding from within. This ushers in the strategic renaissance of Terra special attackers, a modern competitive archetype born from Paldea's Crucible, dominating regulation sets from Scarlet and Violet's launch through the circuits of 2023 and beyond. These aren't your classic special sweepers like Alakazam, fragile minds hurling auroras. No. Terra special harbingers are often physical by pedigree, gritty setup artists or bulky walls repurposed into special nukes via cunning Terra choices. Consider Meowscarada, the magician feline with attack edging its special attack. Yet Terrastalizing Stella, a rainbow wildcard mirroring all types, lets Terra Blast flex physical initially, but savvy players pivot to special coverage moves boosted skyward. Or Roaring Stars like Roaring Moon, Paradox Brute with attack supremacy, Terrastalizing Fairy for physical Terra Blast Pixie Dust that neuters dragons, blending physical delivery with special type utility. Deeper still, the nuance unfolds in layers. Physical attackers, starved for special coverage, wield Terra Blast as their forbidden fruit, gaining physical fire, ice or electric blasts that historically demanded special attack investment. Suddenly Corvic Knight terrastalizes flying. Its Terra Blast Hurricane becomes a physical Gale Force twister, feathers crystallized into razor winds that shred grasses without weather reliance. Special attackers counter by terrastalizing physical staples like ground or rock. Their boosted earthquake waves now special quakes rumbling through defenses, poison jabs turning spectral. In VGC 2024, Terra special luminaries, like Indeedee Female, orchestrate with Follow Me, terrastalizing psychic for special Terra Blasts that pierce steels, while its male counterpart tanks. Singles, Meta's Crown, Dragalga, Poison Dragon with balanced defenses, terrastalizing water for special sludge, bomb doubles that drown fairies, but the brilliance pierces further. Terrastalizations type, overwrite neuters, faux super effective hits post-transformation. Buying turns for Terra Blast volleys. A steel type terrastalizes Ghost, immune to fighting rushes, then special Terra Blast Poltergeist haunts from afar. Competitive minds layer this with entry hazards, choice items, or booster energy, where a modest plus special attack balloons under crystals to rival Rayquaza's Wrath. Paldea's Terrastal Raids, those colossal crystal behemoths towering over Mesagoza. Test this live. Your squad terrastalizing in unison. Terra Blasts converging, like a prism's focused beam. Highest stats dictating the symphony of destruction. Yet amid this power, vulnerabilities whisper. One terrastalization per battle. Crystals shattering post-faint. Demanding prediction, worthy of a professor's thesis. Trainers scour Paldea's Terra raids for shards, attuning hidden types at academies. Each choice a gamble on meta shifts, from Ogerpon's masks echoing Terra diversity to Miraidon's electric crystals humming adaptive fury. As Paldea's crystals fade into battle's afterglow, we circle back to the beam that ignited this entire saga of power splits and stat dances, a move whose visuals have evolved from pixel sparks to cinematic spectacles across 3 decades. Up next, Chapter 21, the visual history of Hyper Beam, where we'll trace every explosion, recoil, and recharge in mesmerizing detail. Terrastalization supercharges a Pokemon's moves by rewriting their type on the fly, letting Terra Blast tap into whatever offensive stat shines brightest. But if there's one special attack that's never needed a type change to claim the throne of raw power, it's Hyper Beam. Debuting back in 1996 on that original Game Boy screen in Pokémon Red and Green, Hyper Beam wasn't just a move, it was the visual promise of annihilation. A flickering cascade of white lines erupting from the user's mouth like a glitch in reality itself. Picture the hardware limitations of the era, a monochrome display straining under 16 tones of green, battling refresh rates that made every animation feel alive with imperfection. Your Pokémon rears back, pixels compressing into a glowing orb at its jaws, then unleashes a straight-line beam that punches across the battlefield, wiping out the foe in a burst of static sparks. No colours, no flare, just pure, unfiltered force, 30 base power. Try 150, the highest damaging move in the game, demanding a full turn's recharge afterward. It's like the universe itself needed time to recover from the overload. In Generation 1, where special attacks ruled the elemental roost, Hyper Beam stood as the normal type outlier, a special canon that any Pokémon could learn, from Venusaur to Mewtwo, symbolizing the unchecked might of that unified, special stat. Fast forward to 1999, Pokémon Gold and Silver on the Game Boy Color, and the world bursts into color. Those white lines evolve into a radiant yellow glow, the charging sphere pulsing with 16-bit vibrancy against the new palette. The beam now arcs slightly, trailing embers that linger on screen. The recoil animation showing your Pokémon slumping in exhaustion. Jaws smoking, held items enter the fray, but Hyper Beam's spectacle remains unchanged in category, still special through and through. In its power now clashing with the split special attack and defense stats that let tanks like Blissey weather the storm, while frail sweepers like Alakazam fire it off with glee. Visually, it's the first taste of depth. The beam's trail fading into pixelated haze, hinting at the energy waves to come. By 2002, Ruby and Sapphire on Game Boy Advance brings smoother sprites and double battles, where Hyper Beam's animation swells to fill the screen. The charge builds, as swirling energy spirals into the mouth, exploding outward in a wide golden torrent that engulfs half the field. Watch it in action against a rival's team. The beam warps the background tiles, pixels shearing away in its wake, a visual metaphor for the type-based tyranny still gripping specials, where this normal behemoth outperforms many stab options. No split yet. So it's the ultimate equalizer, learned via TM06 by over 200 species. Its recharge turned a strategic gamble that defined early competitive play. Then comes the revolution in 2006, Diamond and Pearl on Nintendo DS. Generation 4's physical special split finally frees moves from type shackles. Hyper Beam stays firmly special, its animation leaping forward with 3D models rotating on dual screens. The user rears dramatically, more crackling with electric blue plasma that coalesces into a blinding core, then blasts forth in a spiraling helix of light particles, screen edges vignetting from the intensity. The beam now shakes the DS hardware subtly, faux models ragdolling backward, pixels replaced by shaders and glow effects. Post-split, it shines on bulky special attackers like Arceus, the recoil punishing over-reliance but rewarding the perfect setup. Why it endures as the symbol of special dominance, that big, risky swing evoking ancient lore of legendary beams from Rayquaza's domain. 2011's Black and White on DS refine it further, the Unova polish adding lens flares and motion blur. The charge hums with bassy audio cues, energy tendrils whipping around the user's face before the beam erupts in a prismatic shockwave, distorting the 3D battlefield models. Hyper Beam's normal typing lets it bypass ghost immunities post-split, a boon for special sweepers. Its visuals now cinematic enough to feel like a boss move, the recharge slump more pronounced with exaggerated stagger. Enter 3 dimensions fully in 2013, X and Y on 3DS. Hyper Beam transforms into a spectacle of volumetric lighting. Your Pokémon levitates slightly, jaws distending unnaturally as a roiling plasma sphere forms, crackling with vein-like energy pulses, then launches a colossal beam that rends the air, particles scattering like shrapnel, the camera pulling back as the screen quakes. Mega evolutions amplify it. Imagine Mega Mewtwo Y channeling psychic fury into an even thicker torrent. tying into the lore of lab-born psionic cataclysms. The hardware's stereoscopic 3D makes the beam pop forward, immersing you in its path. Sun and Moon in 2016 pushed particle systems to their limits on 3DS. The charge now draws in ambient sparkles from the Alolan environment. The beam, a fiery golden lance with trailing comet tails, model animations syncing perfectly for Z-move conversions like Gigavolt Havoc. But Hyperbeam alone shakes palm trees and warps Z-ring crystals. Its special essence underscores the era's mystic forces, contrasting physical brawls. Sword and Shield 2019 on Switch embrace full HD open worlds. Hyperbeam's animation explodes with God rays and bloom effects, the user silhouetted against a building vortex of light. The beam, a screen-spanning cataclysm that craters the Gigantamax arena. Dynamax variants pulsing larger with territorial pulses. The recoil sends Pokémon skidding across grass textures, a visual feast cementing its legacy amid Galar's category-blending max moves. Finally, Scarlet and Violet in 2022 usher in the present era on Switch OLED. Hyperbeam reaches cinematic apotheosis. Open-world freedom lets you witness it from any angle. The charge rends Terra crystals mid-air, energy coiling like a dragon's breath, then unleashes a relativistic beam that warps space itself, screen shake rattling your Joy-Con, colours shifting to hypersaturated whites and golds, faux models disintegrating in voxel explosions. Terra-stylized users amp it further, Terra normal variants doubling down on the blast's purity. Across 9 generations of hardware, from Game Boy's flickering white lines to these screen-shaking masterpieces, Hyperbeam has mirrored Pokémon's evolution, its unwavering special status, a beacon amid splits, anomalies, and terrestrial twists. That iconic charge, the overwhelming deluge, the vulnerable recharge, it embodies the thrill of special power, the mystic overkill that demands respect. A visual thread weaving through pixel past to holographic now, proving why no other move captures the essence of go big or go fainted. But as Hyperbeam's beam pierces every era, what lies beyond these visuals in the mechanics themselves? Stick around for Chapter 22, the future of the split, where we'll uncover the wild innovations still charging on the horizon. As Hyperbeam's beam fades from those modern screens, shaking pixels into oblivion across 9 generations, you can feel the pulse of special attacks beating stronger than ever. That raw energy, once locked to types like Fire or Psychic, now flows freely through moves decoupled from their origins, a freedom forged in the fires of Generation 4. Diamond and Pearl didn't just tweak the formula, they shattered it. Before that split in 2006, Pokémon battled under type tyranny, where a ghost like Gengar wielded Lick as a pitiful physical jab, its poison fangs reduced to mere scratches, despite the spectral lore screaming for otherworldly power. Shadow Ball languished undreamt, while Surf drowned foes in special waves, simply because water demanded it. Designers chafed against those chains, their visions of balanced teams stifled by rigid rules that funneled entire types into one camp or the other. The split changed everything. Moves claimed their own categories, fixed and fierce, letting Draco Meteor rain special draconic fury without apology, or Stone Edge carve physical scars across Rock's domain. Gengar rose anew, its Shadow Ball now a special spectre, hurling ethereal orbs that pierced defenses tuned for brute force. Dark types shed their physical shackles, birthing Dark Pulse as a special ripple of malice, or flinching foes mid-menace. This wasn't evolution, it was liberation, injecting fresh blood into a franchise teetering on repetition. Imagine the alternative had stagnation set in. Generation 3 lingered in type-based limbo, abilities like huge power amplifying physical might, but leaving special wielders like Alakazam trapped in their psychic prison. Competitive scenes curdled, meta-warping around special dominant types while physical bruisers starved for viable stab. Fans whispered of burnout, tournaments dominated by the same elemental overlords. But Generation 4's Gambit paid off. Revitalizing viability, Sudowoodo could now hammer-arm its way physically through grass weaknesses, while Jinx unleashed special ice beams without betraying its frosty essence. The split breathed life into forgotten Pokémon, turning niche picks into staples and ensuring every type could flex both fists and spells. That legacy endures, a cornerstone uncracked through Dynamax behemoths and Terrastal shards. Even as Paldea's Terra Blast morphs types to supercharged special blasts, the categories hold firm, a reliable axis around which new mechanics whirl. Victini's V create Scorched Ladders in 2010 events as a special Inferno, lowering its own defenses in Fiery Sacrifice, while Mega Rayquaza's Dragon Ascent blended Physical Plunge with Draconic Lore. The split enabled these signatures, letting legendaries embody their myths without mechanical handcuffs. Yet whispers of the next evolution stir in the anomalies we've traced. Psyshock in Generation 5 bypassed special defense with Psychic Blades slicing raw defense. A mind over matter heresy that Secret Sword echoed for Keldio's noble edge. Photon Geyser from Ultra Necrozma picks the user's peak stat, physical or special, surging as light or force. Shell-side arm coils and calculates, Venom choosing the deadlier path based on what wounds deepest. These rule breakers hint at fluidity ahead, moves that defy fixed labels altogether. What might Generation 10 or 11 unleash? Picture a third category, perhaps ethereal, drawing from speed or evasion to strike unseen, weaving through guards with temporal tricks tied to legendaries like Dialga, or fully adaptive arsenals where every assault scans foe and field, terrain, weather, bonds, shifting categories mid-battle like a living strategy. Terrastalization already blurs lines, boosting special Terra Blasts on physical titans. Extend that to moves that hybridize damage, half physical crunch merging with special waves in a cataclysmic bloom. Lore demands it. Mystic forces like Mewtwo's Psionic Storms or Kyogre's Primordial Surges crave expression unbound, perhaps through trainer-synced moves that channel your lead Pokémon's hidden potential. Competitive minds buzz with possibilities. No longer will bulky walls sponge special spam unchallenged. Imagine defenses split into triads, physical plates, special auras, and hybrid veils. Stagnation flees further, as designers craft Pokémon viable across metas, from stall squads to hyper-offense. Events like Entei's shiny 2010 Flare, blending Extreme Speed's physical dash with Sacred Fire's special roar, preview this balance, brute force tempered by mystic precision. At its heart, the split enshrines that eternal dance, physical brute force, the thunderous clash of claws and hammers, raw power forged in trainer bonds, and unyielding wills against the mystic arts of the special realm. Ethereal beams, psychic tempests, elemental symphonies, they evoke ancient powers, the world's veiled energies humming beneath the surface. Hyperbeam's crescendo, from pixel flicker to cinematic quake, symbolizes Special's ascent, but only because the split cleared the path. This equilibrium saved Pokémon from its own success, turning potential plateau into perpetual reinvention. As we gaze toward uncharted regions, the categories stand resilient, promising battles where force meets finesse in endless harmony, each generation etching deeper into the lore. What did you think of this journey? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If this changed your perspective or taught you something new, consider subscribing for more mind-expanding content. And if you know someone who would find this as fascinating as you did, share it with them. These are the kind of conversations that matter.